2, testing. There we are. We are live. We are back. The Sunday afternoon live stream is here. We've got, of course, some Sunday afternoon hoops on in the background as well. Some Lakers versus the Knicks. The first quarter is winding down. Lakers up by 7. And Luka almost got suspended in this first quarter. Hey, yo, we had a situation where somebody picked up on the Jackson Hayes and the Lakers picked up like a sketchy foul. And then they pointed down the court. Somebody picked up a technical. Luka was down there. It was like, were they pointing at Luka? And then I think Jackson Hayes dove in front of the ref pointing at Luka. So it's like, well, then I guess they're technically pointing at Jackson Hayes. So it's his technical foul. So for now, I guess Luka won't get suspended the next game. But hey, he's sitting at 15 technicals as of right now. I guess what is that? I guess we could look at that technical per game. Obviously Luka is, known to lead the league in several categories and several positive ones, but also he does, he'll lead the league in technical fouls as well too. And I guess especially do we have to look minutes played for Draymond? We might be underrating Draymond. He's probably been out there just actually physically playing, more minutes than we expect. Again, obviously there's arguments about impact, where it's all different stuff, but I don't know if Draymond is at the level where is he picking up technical fouls at the same rate? I think the technical fouls may be more, they may be a little higher relative to his other stats than they've been in the past. But, again, I think maybe in terms of the scale of the league, should we look at real quick the technical foul leaders? Hey, you hate to think about it when you think about Luka Doncic, but unfortunately, it is what it is. You still think of the windy rant at this point. The winner's tunnel is over there. If Luka wants to be walking out of the winner's tunnel, what is it? I guess, that's the part that we have memorized, I guess. It is what it is. I think that is the iconic line from the quote. I mean, we could pull that rant back up and watch that as well too. I mean, obviously, again, does it ever get old? Shout out Wendy, but Brian Windhorst. But yeah, I mean, again, it is something. The passion for the game, you gotta love that. But I don't know if it's necessarily been that all the time. That's the thing about Draymond that is it has definitely wandered into that over the last couple of years, where there has been a recklessness, and they're always, I guess, to tread lightly, I guess, not to just throw out a word, but, and I guess, again, it's all obviously, we're saying, the appearance of it to the fans, but it has appeared at times there was a recklessness to it, but again, it is also Draymond is just again, you just see him so absorbed in these games, and he just gets so passionate, it's obviously, again, just a crazy competitor. And I was seeing a clip the other day of him in an interview at from back from his high school days, maybe an AAU tournament, though I don't think it was AAU. It didn't look like that, but still kind of the same, obviously, swagger approach to the game, the smack talking and all that. So obviously, you love to see it. And again, for better or worse, it led to him being a great player. But for Luka, it doesn't necessarily feel and now what are we Nico Harrison over here trying to trade him? But it doesn't always seem like the technical fouls are because of again, the passion of the game in a sense. And I guess I don't know if we actually have, maybe Basketball Reference buries the technical foul stats as well. I guess fouls per game, but actual technical fouls, would it be in the totals? Because there are guys that obviously are known to foul. Hey, yo, a couple times. Shout out Karl Anthony Towns has gotten himself some trouble in the past with that. We've got turnovers per game. Hey, yo, Westbrook, shout out. 4.2. I don't know if that's a shout out or not, but fouls per game. Valanciunas 5.6. Hey, yo, Valanciunas is just fouling out every time. I guess now we're looking at totals instead. Oh, no, per 36 minutes. How many minutes is he playing per game? Not even that many, but still. Oh, I guess 5.6 per 36 minutes. So if he was playing a full game, he would just be fouling out. Okay, I guess Valanciunas, you're safe. You're safe. It is what it is, but I'm sure it's not too far off here in terms of, obviously, how aggressive it might be from the standing in the league. I guess Doncic is at 2.4. So Jaylen Brown, 2.7, and everybody's giving him props for this season. I guess again, technicals obviously is what we're talking about here. Oh, Jokic, more fouls per game than Doncic. It is what it is. So I guess it's gonna have a difficult time loading. It is what it is. But shout out, and the Luka season, the Lakers season has been a little interesting this year because they look at the record now, they're still like a decent number over 500. The fact that they're in the actual playoffs as of right now, they're 6th in the Western Conference, so they're avoiding that play-in tournament still. Like that still is, generally I guess a goal that you would set for the season, but still there was that initial hype of this being the first complete season of having Luka after trading for him. And of course, maybe it's us personally as well too as fans watching the games, but I think there is like an actual collective reasoning of we'll say what the roster is around Luka, but obviously again with the way some of the contracts line up in the roster and the hierarchy of that, like they might not necessarily I don't know if their number 2 paid guy can necessarily be a number 2 paid guy on a title team in 2020. It pains me to say it. It pains me to say it. I feel like IT might even have to cut that out. I'm not sure, but because he obviously LeBron's saving himself for the playoffs. Hey, Chad, it is what it is. Just get the man in the playoffs. He can still, obviously be a mate, and he can still be a impact guy. I'm not saying that he can't be on a team that wins the title. It just needs to be constructed a little bit more smartly, and unfortunately now over the last couple of years you can't necessarily build a team the way that you could in the past. With the Anthony Davis LeBron team, they were able, and again we'll say able to get away. Obviously they were able to get away because they won a title, but they were able to get away with the fact that they were quote unquote, and again you're not even saying overpaying those guys, but those guys were 2 majorly paid players. And obviously the one title season, and they were like a little bit in that Cavs sort of mindset of building teams where it was those close trade deadline, make a last minute maneuver to save the team, and all of a sudden you have a little bit of momentum going into the playoffs. Like it wasn't necessarily always the most clean, optimistic team building going forward, but they still managed to always find these veteran minimum type guys and make these, and even I guess more so find the veteran minimum guys, but you could make those easier low key trades as well too. And I mean, I guess in some ways you could probably make some of those easier trades now, but they also like having the Westbrook contract at that one point and then making the trade they did there, and I just don't know exactly how the maneuverability of that would have worked. And also because of the fact that they're making those low-key trades, or those last-minute lifesaver type trades, they're also on the they're also on the end where they maybe are feeling the effects of depleting themselves a little bit of some of those assets as well too. So there is a little bit of you pay the price for making some of the for pushing the cost down the future. In terms of the team building standpoint, you definitely are going to have to make up those picks back in some ways, maybe trade another guy. And again, you would think, well, I guess you trade Davis for picks. You definitely get, Luka, you're going to trade all those picks away for Luka anyway. So you'll definitely, take that. But again, in terms of having the number 2 guy around him, be LeBron this year, again, I guess we'll just have to see if it actually is just like a different level in the playoffs. Because that is an argument that I would have talked myself into the last couple years. Say they trade for Luka, 2.5 years ago or something. I don't know. Or, LeBron is just still like on the timeline where he was at 2.5 years ago, if that makes sense. But I think over these past 2.5 years, but over this recent stretch with the Lakers, he has still been, again, like we're saying, a guy that if you have to just take 2 guys to build a team around to win the title, and LeBron's one of those 2 guys. And again, in terms of the way that the league, the way that you can kind of draft, or the way that you kind of construct team players, but even just kind of any 2 players now as well too. I mean, again, if like Giannis and Jokic were on the same team, then they're probably going to be better than than Wade and LeBron? And was that somewhat the equivalent? If Giannis and Shea were on the same team, is that like LeBron and Wade being on the same team back in the day? Again, maybe we have to make our fair comparisons. I'm not sure. But regardless, with the way the league has been standing over the last handful of years, like add LeBron to any other team, any other superstar on a team, and I think that they could win the title together at that point, if that makes sense. LeBron and Edwards in Minnesota, I think that they could have won the title together over the last couple of years. Again, obviously, it's just a vague, general, blanket statement, but in terms of the level of impact play that he could get to could he have, like we're saying, led the team to the title, maybe even the same way that he did in 2019, since 2019, I don't know about that. I don't know if I'd write him off winning the finals MVP again in a final series as well. But assuming that, again, if you're playing with a guy like Edwards, that's a little Shaq and Kobe-esque from the Lakers, but even, obviously Shaq farther up to time. Bringing back Wade, probably even a little more Shaq Wade-ish at that point as well, too. But if Shaq maybe was a little closer to winning finals MVP, if Shaq got all the free throws, I don't know. But again, unfortunately, we have to be real at some point as basketball fans. I love being optimistic. I love believing in a player up until the very last minute. Again, it may be like, if you're ranking guys and you say, just throw out a number, like there's 9 guys that you want on your team to win a title, like I could have I would still have believed that LeBron would have been the 9th one, or made the list 10 to include LeBron on the list, and it would definitely have made sense, because again, he could definitely get to that level, and he still can, like we're saying, obviously, do we have to throw in the "we love LeBron, we don't want to disrespect LeBron" disclaimers? What's the old Stephen A disclaimer that he used to run, where it's like, LeBron, great father, great husband, great businessman, all-time great player, scorer, teammate, assist guy. Again, shout out, we love LeBron, but again, if we were having to have the honest conversations, if we were building a team, not to say that we wouldn't want LeBron on the team, but again, there has to be a reasonable balance when you're constructing the team at some point. And again, he could have, I guess, like, we're just, maybe to put it simply, he could have just genuinely outplayed his contract at some point. And maybe it would have been specific games, specific playoff series, specific moments versus, again, he's going to be the league MVP for the season or something like that. But regardless, you get him in a clutch situation. If you build the rest of the team the right way, that's going to be for any team. But, if you have the team, for the most part, built the right way, LeBron could have, and obviously the defensive stuff there as well, too, is, again, a hit or miss, we'll say, possession-wise over the last couple of years. But regardless, offensively, still brilliant and capable, and still can, like, when you see him play, again, like, get to the basket whenever he wants. He's still insanely athletic. It is definitely the games played thing, of course, you can see is, just different now at this point. And again, obviously, at some point it's like, at some point we don't even need him in the regular season. Like, we only want to see LeBron in the playoffs as well. If it means we can see LeBron for like 3 or 4 more playoffs if he only plays in the playoffs, like, again, we want to see that. Any way to keep LeBron in the league, we'll keep LeBron in the league. I guess maybe we'll have to walk it back, say it the other way. I don't know. Do the Lakers have to be the sacrificial lamb at this standpoint? Because the Lakers, or not the Bulls, didn't have they didn't do this with Jordan. And it did, I guess, fortunately curse them. They didn't have a Luka Doncic per se on the team that they traded for. Who would have? Well, I guess Kobe would have been the obvious Luka. If they had just traded for Kobe on draft night from the Hornets instead of the Lakers, what's the what if scenario of that? I'm assuming that would have been kind of possible. Again, the realisticness, the fact that they would have been thinking about trading. I mean, you just maybe need to think about making good moves and trading for good players at any point. But, again, a little bit of the, do you say the Sam Bowie move where you're like, well, we have a 2-guard already. I guess, obviously they passed on Jordan because of Sam Bowie. So it's like, I'm not saying the Bulls passed on trading for Kobe because of Jordan. But, because again, I don't even know what the Bulls had for, they could have traded their pick 3 years earlier and then it wouldn't even have mattered. Again, it would have mattered, but it's just like at some point you just have to go, okay, again, that move is something that was just not necessarily really capable of happening. But I don't necessarily think it was like a crazy, crazy haul that They gave up because, for one, I don't know if they had trade values figured out perfectly in 97, 96, but for Divac, that was it. Hey, I guess you don't want to say that was it because, again, we're viewing the best version of Kobe. We're looking at Kobe Bryant scoring 81 points a game, and they're just thinking about, if Kobe Bryant was on the Hornets and then he dropped 81, would you trade him for Vlade Divac after that? Probably not. But again, that's not when they traded him. They did trade him on draft night. It was a little bit of a different thing. Rest in peace to Kobe, of course. But, there's no picks here associated with this or anything. There's nothing extra. Basketball Reference, I'm assuming they always have even for the old trades, Chad, all the way back to 1996. It is what it is. They usually have all the information. So, and again, the Divac, we can't even process it. It is what it is. Divac in 96 was a good player. I guess we can see like the All-Stars here. What was the Hall of Famer? I guess we're being disrespectful. We got to be respectful for his game. International Hall of Famer. I don't know, but let's see here. I guess so. And he was only on Charlotte for 2 years as well, too. I mean, that's just a bit of a bummer. I guess if they traded him for something crazy. Is this like the Davis trade? I'm not sure, because I guess it was, again, unproven that Kobe was necessarily going to be this. But it could have also just been, I'll throw myself in there, even though I wasn't even around in 96. I'll throw myself in there and say the basketball community was just probably not as smart in 1996. It is what it is. There are gonna be misses every draft. There's gonna be things that we don't get right in players that we misevaluate. I'm trying to think. I mean, I guess Giannis is like a recent one, but I still would say, that was even 10 years ago. Are we super accurate now? I don't know, but I mean, I'm like Wiseman. I guess because like I feel like if a guy's in a range, it's fine. Like. Like Castle at 4 to the Spurs. Like, yeah, it's fine that he fell to the Spurs at 4, but he is still like in the range of being the best player in the draft. Like, and I know we're being in the moment, knowing the arguments that were happening there as well too. You look back at some drafts, the 4th pick is not necessarily that close to being the number 1 pick. Obviously the next draft, or the previous draft, where the Spurs they take Wemby, of course. The number 1, number 4, they're a little bit of a difference. I guess Amen Thompson was number 4, so that might be an exception as well, too. Shout out Amen Thompson. I guess looking at the 2024 draft, Jared McCain at 16. So you see, we still, there's still moves that get made. It is what it is. And some of these, obviously you tread lightly with what you say about some of the careers as well, too, with how they played out. Shout out, Topic has had some, pretty serious medical things that he's been dealing with as to why he's not been able to get on the court. But, I mean, just from a guard standpoint, so again, if we look, and I think our McCain stock is a little bit high right now as well, too, because McCain has been very, very productive since he's been on the Thunder. I mean, the Thunder are also, a very, very good situation for him to be in. But, he was the 16th pick in the 24 draft, so you've got, again, Castle goes 4 to the Spurs, a guard, kind of wing player, more like it. But the Spurs also had 8 in that draft, and they drafted Dillingham and traded him. I don't know if we were thrilled about that, but, Dillingham hasn't necessarily, we'll see. We'll see, and then, we'll see, obviously, what the Spurs do with those picks. Though, did it ended up going into the Fox trade or something? I'm not sure. We have to go back and track those moves. But, Dillingham versus McCain is definitely, McCain's been more productive at this point. Matas versus McCain is interesting. I know Matas is a little bit different wing type of player, but they can be, perimeter creator type of guys. That's an interesting way. And Matas, you can definitely see him more as like a long-term starter, even if he's like the 4th starter, versus, McCain seeming like this 6-man role if he's not, again, like the lead guard on the team. Seems like he's a pretty good 6-man, but a really, really good 6-man. In all honesty, he probably wins 6-man of the year if he just starts the season on the Thunder. And I guess Mitchell as well, too. I mean, they just have an eye for talent. It is what it is. But, Dillingham. So, McCain versus Dillingham. McCain versus Topic, again at 12, with all respect. McCain versus Carter. Devin Carter at 13, Bub Carrington at 14, and then Khalil Ware at 15, center, and then McCain at 16. I mean, I think, McCain in this redraft is probably going to be a little bit higher. It is what it is. I mean, Keshawn George at 24 gets traded to the Wizards. He's probably going to be a little bit higher. Maybe Ryan Dunn. Filipowski at 32. Hey, yo. I mean, it seemed like he was on top of the world back then. It seemed like he was on top of a lot of things back then. But he might be on top of draft boards with the way he is, being a productive bench guy as well too. So again, we're not going to be perfect from a drafting standpoint. But I guess the Divac, looking back at it, that's tough. I guess we got off on this because we were talking about Divac versus Kobe. And I guess Divac didn't actually make an all-star game until he was in Sacramento in 2001. So, again, shout out the Hall of Famer for, I guess, do we check the medals here at some point and see if we can get like a Olympic resume? But, he was obviously really productive on these because did he play like maybe a season with Magic or two? I guess 19 playoff games here in 90-91. So, again, was obviously like a proven part of a pretty good team. But, yeah, that is, again, I don't know if you would necessarily trade the 14th pick for a non-all-star, but really good in Olympic. I'm trying to think, is Dennis Schroeder, Dennis Schroeder had more 16-point-a-game seasons. I mean, again, I think Divac is probably a better player in the time than Schroeder is now. But Franz Wagner? Is that like trading Franz Wagner for the 14th pick in the draft? I don't know. I'm trying to, know all... we don't want to call out the no all-star club in the NBA. It's a smaller list now that maybe the talent pool for some of the last spots is a little bit larger. And maybe Franz has been an all-star once as well, too. But, Franz in a couple years, maybe, because I guess Divac was maybe a little bit more of a veteran at that point. So then there is that, I guess willingness for one of the franchises to, make the trade as well. And Franz, I guess 19, 20, 21 a game, maybe a little bit more opportunity, but also just, everybody's a better score. He's got 3-point game now as well, too. But... has not necessarily been an all-star. 5th in Rookie of the Year voting his first year, so, first team all-rookie. But, maybe him and Mo Wagner, and speaking of Dennis Schroeder, Team Germany is obviously a very, very underrated international team, a team that plays very well together. It's a lot of guys that, you don't necessarily need to obviously be in the NBA to be a good international team, but it's like, okay, there is... again, for us, we'll say for the American fan. For the American fan, there is a proven international level of play with familiar NBA names that we have across these teams. So, just between those three guys, like that's a pretty deal. Do we say it's an elite? Quite the NBA international, I would say, of like Gasol and Ruby. Franz and Mo, with all due respect, we love the Michigan, the Michigan, Franz and Mo are they're the Michigan brothers. I don't know if that's what you refer to them as, but they are brothers in the sense that they're related. And they did go to Michigan, so the Michigan brothers, Franz and Mo Wagner from Germany. But either way, what are we saying? Obviously, I don't think it's a hot take. I don't think it's an epiphany for us to sit here and realize that they're, maybe still working their way to the basketball legacies of the Gasols. Shout out the Gasols. Also probably, if Divac is in the Hall of Fame, if Vlade Divac is in the Hall of Fame, is Marc Gasol going to be in the Hall of Fame? Because I would assume Pau, if Pau's not already in it, pause. He might be. 2-time All-NBA for Mark, a defensive... what it is. 3 All-Stars, 2 All-NBAs. 2012, 2013 Defensive Player of the Year. So I guess he gets in the lineage there, but DPOY doesn't necessarily guarantee a Hall of Fame. I think it is. It does get you pretty close though, and he was an NBA champ later in his career. Important to the team, not necessarily to the same level. Again, that his brother was important to the Lakers, but regardless, was still definitely needed. Meal Ticket is a nickname for Pau Gasol. ET. Are we still allowed? Are we still allowed to call him Kung Pao? I don't know. Hey yo. But yeah, obviously he is. I guess yeah, he is currently in the Hall of Fame. 6 All-Stars, 4 All-NBAs. Hey, that is interesting. We have said in the past. That, and I guess Vlade Divac now completely destroys this as well too. But Vlade Divac might be such an outlier that, and with all due respect, he might be such an outlier that we have to, just consider a different for just like a general career to make the Hall of Fame is like 5 All-NBAs. It seems like if you can make the All-NBA team 5 times, I don't want to say regardless of what else you do, but again, that does, imply a certain baseline of like statistical production or somewhat of team success or whatever. But, regardless of whatever you do from like a championship standpoint or something, playoff standpoint, it does seem like you can probably make the Hall of Fame if you are one of the 15 best players in the league for half a decade. Again, I don't know if this is Epiphany Corner here on the Rem and Sam pod, but it just seems to be like a safe number to get to. And, maybe not every guy, it seems like there are guys, I feel like we probably looked up Pascal Siakam's name for this before. It is what it is. 4-time All-Star, 2-time All-NBA. He's getting, if Pascal Siakam makes one more All-NBA, he might be close. He's almost got a better resume than Marc Gasol, so we have to maybe Siakam is in before Marc Gasol. And I guess they were on the same championship team as well, too. Do we have to go back and look at finals numbers? Siakam was really, really great in, of course, game 1. But for the season, for the series, I'm assuming he would have had better stats just because of where he was at in his career. But and just probably more impact because of that anyways. But yeah, you see for, of course, Pau, it was like a little 3-year run in terms of the All-NBAs that he was able to make it there. And then again in 14-15 in Chicago. And was pretty good in San Antonio as well, too. 12 a game. 50% from the field that year. And, 53% from 3 was burying threes. Hey, yo. But again, he was like a reliable old guy scorer. And there were times, again, if you know where you're going on defense, there are going to be times that you're going to find yourself in the right spot. Pause. You're like, hey, I can actually make a play now. But again, he was not necessarily like the same level of. Oh man, I thought he was playing. See, LeBron. I guess he did play till he was 40 to almost. He was in San Antonio till he was 38. But I would assume that Pau Gasol at 38 is what a 41-year-old basketball player should maybe play like in the NBA. Again, I guess with all due respect to Pau Gasol, but again, he also had a great career before that as well too. So. It's not disparaging the 18 years before that were fantastic. But regardless, wait, why are we talking about Pau Gasol? Oh, Team Germany trading Mo Wagner. I guess we don't even know who the 14th pick in the draft, I guess. Trading Jared McCain for Franz Wagner. There we go. That's the modern day Kobe trade. I guess shout out to Jared McCain in this scenario. Hey, yo, that's probably one of the biggest compliments he'll get all year. But, yeah, we'll have to see if that actually is how it played out. I think, Kobe, because, again, of maybe Shaq and some of the other guys in the Lakers team as well, too, but was definitely able to have some high level. So this would definitely be one of those playoffs for McCain where he could definitely, not say get on the Kobe level. Hey, yo, again, obviously, respect to Kobe. But, again, one of the reasons that Kobe was able to so quickly emerge as a great player was because of the things that he was able to help the Lakers accomplish in the playoffs and being a clutch player that way and having big performances. And I do think McCain could really, really do that for this Thunder's team. Again, I don't want to just throw out a number, but I think he's been a 50-50 guy for the Thunder specifically this year. Maybe those stats have gone down slightly at this point. Okay, yeah. See, we're over exaggerating at this. See, we're like, I guess getting a little scared of the Thunder, getting scared of McCain. The Spurs didn't really make like a deadline move like that, and it's the first season that we're seeing this core group of guys together, and you still would assume that just giving up more opportunity to guys like Dylan Harper and Carter Bryant, because you do see them starting to emerge into the lineup more as well too. I mean, Dylan Harper, and there's some games where they can maybe go to him at different points in the game as well, just because of the game getting out of hand, or it's starting to get to that kind of lullish point in the season where you need some guys to carry stretches of offense just randomly, quote unquote. But either way, you just do see him becoming more capable as the season goes on. But they didn't necessarily add this, and McCain as well too wasn't necessarily there for the matchups. So again, if we're talking about the confidence that we have for the Spurs versus the Thunder specifically, I mean, I think it is like a legitimate series swinging type of offensive boost that they can get from McCain in these moments, because he is, again, he's so efficient, but he is just also like a great movement player as well too. I mean, him and obviously shout out to Simmons. Maybe he does know a thing or two about basketball. There is a style to. I don't know if you were allowed to compare Jared McCain and Con Knuppel as players, but that movement shooter. I mean, and even obviously Steph is the highest level, but it's the constant moving on the position. So I mean, ITAO, write that down on the draft board for when we do Pat to the draft for the NBA stuff as well too. Most movement without the ball. I mean, that is just one of those basic NBA things as well too that you think of, but I guess you just do you think of it is the problem, so McCain, he is constantly relocating, and I guess he was relocating, well, he's only relocated once from Philly to OKC, but constantly relocating, defenders a pain to guard, and has just been massive with making shots this year. I think Knuppel might actually, well, now that we're going to say this, we're going to be wrong again, but Knuppel might be more efficient than McCain, but he does, if I'm not mistaken, or at one point did lead the league in three-pointers total made. So yeah, I guess somebody leads the league in percentage. 44. He's actually getting better as the season goes. It's crazy. 44% from three is insane. 49% from the field. And of course, you get that rookie season sort of floor of, is this the worst version of Con Knuppel we're ever going to see? Hey, yo. So, a reasonable 8 a game. I guess it would just be maybe him taking less. He would just like take 6 a game and then be taking more mid-range. I don't know. But yeah, I mean, obviously he just doesn't miss. It is what it is. Jeff Nordgaard is his uncle. I don't even know if this was a player that we knew about, I guess, until we just now visited the Con Knuppel page. 1997-98 Milwaukee run at 24, 13 games played. Was, I guess, checking in, getting some shots up. What do you go, 5 for 18? Shout out. 0 for he didn't take a 3. So I guess, missing nothing there. But yeah, 5 for 18 for his career. So is Jeff Norgard responsible for teaching Con Knuppel everything he knows? I don't know. The nip slip himself. I mean, at the nip slip. Hey, yo. I think a lot of people also refer to this maybe a certain Super Bowl halftime, but we refer to it as when Con Knuppel is moving around and the defense loses him. Slips out to the corner for 3. That's the nip slip. So I guess, McCain also very we need a league leader in nip slips. Hey, yo, who leads the league in nip slips in the NBA? I'm not sure, but Con Knuppel is definitely just leading the league in total 3-pointers. So I'm assuming that, again, that is a major part of his game as well. But yeah, McCain is definitely been a bit of a bit scary for the Thunder off of the bench this year. It is what it is. I know, you may not necessarily think scary and Thunder when you look at their TikTok posts, but in terms of, again, the scoring output, it definitely It's definitely there. So yeah, 47, 42, 90% from the free throw line. I guess, a little light in terms of the attempts there. But regardless, it's still been crazy efficient. So I guess, are we saying, we're probably not saying, are we saying these guys over LeBron? Is that what we're bringing it back to? I don't know. Is it officially time to say Jared McCain and Con Knipple over LeBron James? I'm not sure. I would still say LeBron over McCain, and I would say LeBron over Knipple as well too, because I still think at 41 LeBron could have a better defensive possession than Con Knipple, if that makes sense. Again, it would be single possessions ish, or could he have a better defensive game than Con Knipple? That's really the hope at this point. That's really what we've narrowed it down to. I think he definitely could over McCain. Is definitely starting in a situation just on a team, I think, over McCain. It doesn't make sense logistically. I mean, I guess LeBron, it makes sense because LeBron's just a great player and you can see him in a lot of different basketball scenarios, but it doesn't make sense for LeBron to be not starting. You can't even say, LeBron off the bench. It literally doesn't even make sense. Just even having him from a marketability standpoint. I guess the anticipation of people waiting for him to check in with 2 minutes left in the first quarter. I guess that could be something. And then I'm sure there would be a whole mini tradition that would emerge with, 6-man LeBron James, and there'd be maybe a chant or a song or something that they play. I mean, it would definitely be cool if he does the chalk toss, maybe just in game. Would be a sick twist. Of course, he does that. It's still in the game, but it's before the game, and it's still on camera as well too. Because I mean, obviously, the league films everything LeBron does, especially once he steps in the court. But it would be interesting to just have it out of a timeout to kind of see. You don't necessarily see it, of course, on the traditional game broadcast style setup. It would again just be kind of fun to see him check into a game and just be seeing him do the chalk toss over there. The crowd's going crazy. I don't know. Maybe there is there is probably some way. I mean, again, with the marketability of LeBron, you could just make it up and it would work. But it doesn't really make sense for him to be off the bench. Again, you think if he's going to be on the Warriors next year with Steph, obviously him and Steph are starting. What are we doing? That's, that's the most marketable team in NBA history. So you're not just one. I guess, we never don't lead the league in jersey sales at some point is basically the argument for having LeBron. It's the only argument. It's just at every moment we always have a league leader in jersey sales on the bench, or on the court, and on the bench as well too, I guess, in this scenario. But you can also start both guys and make that work as well. I mean, I guess it is something that you just do if you have two good players in general. So if you're focusing on that from a basketball standpoint, you have to balance it. If you're focusing on it from a jersey standpoint, sales, you have to balance it. But yeah, regardless, I guess what we're saying is it's still a little, and for all these teams, of course, undetermined, but we don't know how harshly we can judge Luka for this season yet, because sometimes this team is, and just like any team, if you have injuries and guys missing time in certain lineups, it's gonna look rough some nights if your depth gets exposed. Not everybody, I guess, can, not everybody can go 12 deep, Chad. It is what it is. Ayo. But for the Lakers, there are some nights where, and maybe you focus on some of the Ayton clips. I'm not sure. Luka just threw it right over his head into the corner to Hachimura. Nobody's throwing it to Ayton. We'll see how many possessions they go before that happens. And Towns, like we said, has been, of course, obviously a great, having a very, very great season this year. So him boxing out, is Ayton going to be able to get those rebounding opportunities even in offense? We'll see. If they don't want to turn him into Clint Capella, I guess what's his other option? It's going to, who we don't want to start naming the other centers on the Hawks that don't play as much as Clint Capella, I guess. But it's hey, Ayton, not to get too hard. I guess the Rem and Sam pod calls out DeAndre Ayton. But it's I don't know if you've necessarily displayed the capability to generate a ton of offense on your own, which is not a bad thing by any means. There are a ton of great centers that don't generate offense by themselves. I mean, if I could think of one off the top of my head, Clint Capella has made a great career of himself, not being able to generate offense by himself. But regardless, even maybe, do you say higher levels than that? I mean, Clint Capella might be the ceiling. I'm not sure. Is there a better player that couldn't generate offense, but was still considered a good player? I guess, would you say like I was gonna say Dwight Howard. I think Dwight Howard's post moves were a little underrated for sure, but obviously a lot of his big highlights are him maybe throwing down like some lob dunks, and he did transition. He did he did definitely play while the league was transitioning into the era where a guy like Dwight Howard would not have had to maybe use the post moves. You think just from where the league went from 2009 when he made the finals to like 2000 and even like 2013 14 2014, that 14-15 season when he's on the Rockets. And I mean, right away you're just immediately like, as much as do we have to look back? Was it like Charles Barkley saying that the Warriors weren't going to win the title? And again, that was just obviously, and you say with all due respect, it's funny that the old guy NBA guys can fall into this habit sometimes, but that's just classic old guy NBA. Being a Scrooge about it. The other guys are winning the title. It is what it is. But is Chuck pocket watching the Warriors title back in 14-15? I'm not sure, but regardless, it was very quickly obvious that this is the way the league was going to be shaping, at least for the instant time. And again, Dwight Howard, that type of center, it was basically like you weren't going to be throwing it in to him to be doing post moves, but like 3 or 4 or 5 years earlier would have been very realistic. And still Stan Van Gundy as well too. You do have to give that Magic team for being a little bit forward thinking in the fact that it was spacing and Dwight Howard rim run pause, Dwight Howard attacking the rim, in a lot of ways on that team. But regardless, I guess, is that the best case scenario for DeAndre Ayton is Dwight Howard? I mean, even just do you say even just looking at him, he doesn't look as imposing as Dwight Howard. I mean, Dwight Howard's definitely one of the most imposing centers that we've had, especially in the 21st century. But he is, and maybe Ayton is a little bit slimmer now than he was in Phoenix. Was he a double-digit number in Phoenix? Do we have to go back and look that up? Is the five slimming for DeAndre Ayton? Ayo, pause. Is it making him look like a more aerodynamic player? I'm not sure. Oh, he was 22 in Phoenix, and then I guess didn't play a lot in Portland, but was number 2. And then number 5 in the Lakers. He was number 2 in Portland. See, I wouldn't even have guessed that. I would have sworn that Portland had Caleb Love and that Caleb Love was number 2. I mean, Caleb Love, I guess, hey, is he playing on Portland now? What team does Caleb Love play for? We have to look this up real quick and see. I guess, yeah, he's a rookie this year, so he might be number 2 on Portland. I guess, yeah, he is number 2, so he wasn't there last year. But, oh, man, I have no memory of him being, or I would have thought maybe like Kamara, somebody. I mean, I guess Kamara's 33. We have to fact check this. There's no way DeAndre Ayton was number 2 in Portland. What number is Scoot? A. I guess it is. I don't know why we have to be, so specific about it. It just does not seem like a DeAndre Ayton. 2 is a guard number. It is what it is. I mean, 5. I'm not gonna say it's exclusively a guard number. I can't think of like, who are the best number center 5s. Maybe our jersey knowledge is not where it should be at in terms of, knowing what players rock which numbers. But for some reason, 5 does, as a single-digit number, 5 can be a center number. Ayo, I guess I look over at the Sports Illustrated basketball book, and, you got the Bill Russell in of course, the number 6. Rest in peace, the league retired that. But that, of course, could work as a center number. Dr. J also rocking 6. I mean, a lot of them do wear single digits, of course. But let's see here. Greatest NBA players to wear number 5. And I guess this is Hey, yo. Testing 1, 2, 3. Maybe it's for the best. We were really ripping into DeAndre Ayton there. Hey, yo. The Remin Sam pod, I guess gets, well, it's not, we're not getting heated, but, the Remin Sam pod fires up over DeAndre Ayton. Hey, yo. So I don't know, IT, what do we get on record there? I'm not sure. But what was the point? DeAndre Ayton, Chad, step it up is the point. Step it up. Hey, yo. Don't be complaining when Luka and LeBron are spoon-feeding you buckets and you're having the best year of your career, even though, again, the numbers may not totally match what they have in the past. I mean, some of that feels like it would be effort. I don't know why the opportunity wouldn't be there for him if he was not committed in the same way. You honestly think about the setup of the team as well, too. Like, Luka might be, granted a little bit more shot happy than maybe Booker was back in the day. And CP3, of course, is one of the great point guards of all time who also simultaneously didn't need to score that much. So there is just more opportunity there for Ayton in the past. But again, his highest field goal attempts per game is 13 and a half in Portland. Hey, yo, 13.6, 57% from the field that year. So it's out to 16 a game. He was at 63% of the field, 12 field goal attempts a game, and he was 17 points a game. So, I mean, again, he's not that far off from where he could be having the best year of his career. And he was still playing with Bridges, with Booker, and with Chris Paul. And LeBron can easily be the Chris Paul in this lineup in terms of being the teammate, assist happy, set the guys up in the right way, legendary type of player. Luka, of course, is the Devin Booker who also has his playmaking advantages as well, too. And Mikal Bridges versus Austin Reeves, maybe a little bit different stylistically, but still, I think that he's proven that there can be even a different other scorer guy in the mix as well, too, and it can all work out. Because, again, that team was winning the not winning the finals, but almost winning the finals versus Milwaukee. That team was winning franchise records in terms of games for regular season, but it did make sense, the balance of that team as well, too. And you do think maybe stylistically Austin Reeves would have to take a little bit more of a role of being in the corner and being a little bit more totally off the ball. But again, maybe it's like a different sort of combo of those players where LeBron is like the playmaking ability of Chris Paul, but the scoring sense of Bridges, where it is a little bit more off the ball in that sense. And Austin Reeves is the the scoring sense of, I guess maybe they would have a little. There is just a little bit more offense to go around in LA for sure compared to what was there in Phoenix. But regardless, there is still plenty of opportunity, and I guess Rui as well too. Like, he's going to get his, he's gonna have to get at least 8 to 9 looks as well over the course of the game. I mean, 2 shots a quarter doesn't seem too crazy for our guy Hachimura, but I guess just to double check the hierarchy of the team and the fact that they are, of course, a little bit shallow, and the fact that those are kind of their guys as well too. You have LaRavia, I guess, that can be checked in. Marcus Smart, I guess, is going to take some attempts. So should Marcus Smart, I guess this is points or minutes. I was going to say, should he have more points per game than Ayton? I don't know about that. Or shot attempts. He is taking less than, about 1 less shot per game than DeAndre Ayton. So, maybe there is a couple of different offensive pieces that they can redistribute. Is Marcus Smart still on the? Is he playing? Should we check tonight? We definitely gotta pay attention. Look for Marcus Smart this next time. But you've got Luka, of course, 20-some shots a game. Hey, yo, he's gonna have his demand. 22 shots a game. LeBron at 16 when he plays. Reeves at 15. Hachimura is at 9. And then DeAndre Ayton's at 8.5. Marcus Smart's at 7. LaRavia's at 7. Kennard's at 6.5. And Nick Smith. Oh, Nick Smith now in the Lakers. Hey, yo. Shout out is 5.3 shots a game. I guess he's started one game for him. I was going to say only played one game. But no, 25 games played. He's been there for a second. We I got to catch up on the Miss Nick Smith Lakers minutes for this team. I mean, Vanderbilt, of course, is not necessarily a threat to take away some offense when he's in the game. And Connect, I mean, I guess just hasn't necessarily been as relied on this year as it looked like maybe he could be, based on how productive he was as a rookie. But, yeah, I mean, Hachimura, that's not even that crazy. Like, he's being super efficient. We got to give Hachimura some credit. Hey, yo. I mean, the free throw percentage really hurting what could be a historic season here. He's literally a 50-40 guy. And I don't know if 8.9 is enough to qualify him in the all-time ranks, but I think it might. Because isn't Mark Price like a 50-40-90 guy? And not to say that he isn't, like a sneaky all-star level guy himself. But regardless, otherwise it's like Bird and Dirk. Or like the other guys, and Kevin Durant and Steph. Bird, Dirk, Steph, Kevin Durant, and Mark Price. It's like, okay, who's the outlier here in this group? But, Hachimura and Mark Price. Hachimura is probably closer to Mark Price than Mark Price is to Steph, is to Larry Bird. Is that the take? Is Rui Hachimura closer all time to Mark Price than Mark Price is to Larry Bird? I think you might have Mark Price on an all-time ranking, maybe a little bit higher. But in terms of the basketball talent, I don't know. It could be a decent debate, but it's still, I think, again, a manageable amount for Ayton if he was just looking for more opportunity. I think there are shots to be had here in the Lakers if he is committed to, do you say playing his role well? But it is that. And again, from a number standpoint, he is doing it. But pause, you wouldn't necessarily think that this season would be going well from that standpoint from him because of the way he's been speaking about it, and that's going to have an influence as well too, I guess, depending on what happens with keeping him around in terms of team future type stuff. But yeah, I mean, for the Lakers, like I'm saying, they're having a decent season for what they are now, but for what they were going into the season, maybe it was dipping down in disappointment at some point, but now kind of revitalized and not revitalized, but at least more manageable now as the season has progressed, and it's become like reasonable what this roster actually is competitively in the league as well too. But I mean, the Knicks might still win the Eastern Conference at this point. I know the Celtics just looked good against Cleveland in that last game, so definitely the Tatum return, like we said, they are of course going to be a scary team, but New York is still a team that has to be respected there as well. But we've got the second half of this game about to start up, and New York down by 5, so they need the second half to help prove us right here, I guess, when it's talking about them being that competitive playoff team. But we of course do have the Sunday, do we say the Sunday NFL show continuing? Kind of, because we do have our path to the draft focus here on Sundays, and we have been taking a look, of course, at, I guess, a little Big Ten start anyways. Indiana, Mendoza, we wandered into enemy territory last week looking at the Columbus team, but we got to take a look at the other national championship team today, the University of Miami. Of course, Indiana was having such a great historic season that, I mean, obviously they neutralized him in more ways than one because they beat him in the national title game as well too. But for what the season was for Miami, and for more so for, again, obviously not necessarily a college football retrospective, but for a pass to the draft sort of approach to looking at it, it did sort of, I think, underrate a little bit how talented the Miami football roster was. And, we saw that game be very, very competitive. And, especially at the parts here where we're going to be looking for the NFL draft as well, too. But, we've got second half of what looks like it should be a fun little Sunday afternoon battle here between the Knicks and the Lakers. And we've got some Miami draft questions to answer here as we get closer to the NFL draft in late April. So don't go anywhere. We'll be right back with the University of Miami path to the draft film room right after this. All right, chat, we are back. Second half of course, Lakers versus the Knicks is underway. And, we did say we were going to continue the path to the draft, the University of Miami. But I did, of course, remember something that we forgot to mention Friday. Probably should have mentioned it to start as well, too. I don't know if we should have been complaining about DeAndre Ayton for that long. But we didn't mention, we did mention a NFL trade on Friday. We didn't mention maybe the headlining NFL trade, though. I don't know. Maybe we hot take a double hot take here. I don't know. But either way, to actually, get to the point, Max Crosby got traded a couple days ago, and we just totally missed it. We totally missed it. It is what it is. I probably got to get notifications turned back on my phone, and, or maybe not. If NFL trade news is what we're missing out on, that's, well, again, we got there eventually. We got there eventually, and I guess it's not like the Ravens are playing tomorrow, but I mean, they probably want to line up now that they got Max Crosby. Shout out. And I mean, hey, I just, in terms of obviously the football talent, I mean, they obviously get one of the better defensive ends in the league, but does seem like he does have a feistiness to him that does, of course, work with the, I'm not saying like the Raiders are like, like, do we stereotype him in some ways that maybe you stereotype the Raiders? I don't know. But regardless, because of them building their team around Derrick Henry and Lamar and them being like a power run team and sort of this just, again, they would just like obviously be a very physical team in that way. Having Max Crosby as just like that menacing running all over the field, again, never stop hustling type of player does seem kind of the perfect, I don't know, something, maybe it's not even it's something about him and Derrick Henry specifically that I think makes sense as like a 1-2, just like these guys are, both menaces obviously on the field, but something of, like just both like, again, the specimen of it, like maybe, Garrett is probably, I obviously, do we tread lightly now with the rankings, but Garrett is probably, again, like the most physically imposing defensive end in the league, I would imagine. And again, our guy Verse is up there as well too. But Crosby combined with, like we're just saying, the relentless nature which he plays, like is, up there as well too. And of course, the Ravens, that has been kind of the one spot in the Lamar era, if I recall correctly, that has not necessarily been maybe as star-studded as some of the other areas on defense. I mean, just in the last couple of years, of course, them drafting Kyle Hamilton and getting one of the best safeties in the league, you can still obviously have secondary issues, but, again, you have at least a stud in the secondary to build around and that's capable of making plays in that way. But they've also, and again, maybe they've not been perfect if you go back and look at the passing stats, but they are one of those defenses that, they played a lot of man in the past, and because of that, maybe they get susceptible at times to certain matchups. Like Jamar Chase has, of course, cooked them, but again, because you're going to line Marlon, whoever, you're going to line your corner up there one-on-one against Jamar Chase, he's probably just going to get toasted all day. It is what it is. And, we're probably not going to sit here and recall all the exact game plan stuff that they've done, in all their matchups. But, the physicality at which they played, the talent that they've had on the outside has, at times, definitely favored them, and they've won a lot of matchups in that way. And again, like Marlon Humphrey himself is like a very, very good corner at the last couple of years. He'd been in all-pro conversations, been in Pro Bowls. So, it's not like we have to force respect for their secondary. And they also made a great trade in trading for Roquan Smith a couple years ago as well, too. So, again, you would say that they've had one of the best linebackers in the league. We should probably actually get the Ravens lineup here and see what we've got. And the fact that actually now they have all those guys together as well too. That's not even guys they've had in the past. Like we're saying, they had the Kyle Hamilton run and then the Roquan Smith run. I guess, did they end up waiving Roquan Smith? I guess that would be the question that I have. If I have to ask, hey, okay, no, they didn't. Was there debate about that at some point? For some reason, I'm remembering storylines about something along those lines. And maybe I'm just remembering the fact that, the Bears, but they got like a second-round pick for him as a linebacker. That's still pretty decent. I don't know. But, again, you're going to have now a top secondary guy, now a top linebacker, and a top defensive lineman. And maybe it was just like Roquan Smith trade rumors that I'm remembering or something. And I don't know how many games he played last year as well too, but still had again, a very productive season. PFF had him at the 20th, has the potential to be, of course, at his best, he's been the best. He's been at his best, he can play like the best linebacker in the league. The problem is, of course, Fred Warner has played in the last half decade, and here on we'll admit, we can make a proclamation like it stands for all of sports. Fred Warner's been the best linebacker at the half decade, and that could be true. We could make that proclamation, and again, we might not be wrong, but to be fair to Roquan Smith and the level at which he's played at times, we will say that specific to the Rem and Sam pod, I don't know if we put any linebacker over Fred. Maybe Darius Leonard. We might have to consult Sam about that. Should we ask him? He would definitely give Leonard his respect. I think, should we we'll go a Rem GPT answer here for Sam. He would definitely say they could play similarly in the fact that they're both aggressive at attacking the quarterback when they need to blitz and play downhill, but also very capable coverage. Fred Warner probably better in coverage, which is maybe why Sam would take him as his linebacker at the end of the day. But again, I wouldn't be bummed out in a draft if again we had to take, not had to, but again, quote unquote quotes, had to take because of the way the draft order fell. And I guess we could sit here and lie and say that we would be biased and take Darius Leonard in an all-time draft over Fred Warner, but it is wait till draft night when we win our lies, or I guess it's just us trying to get people trading and manipulating the draft board is all it is. But also he would be very high up on the, again, he's number 2 linebacker of all time. I don't know what the draft set players is here, but regardless, the Ravens defense definitely be terrifying, and even Marlon Humphrey as well too. Again, like we said, respect here on the Rem and Sam pod, hasn't been the same level of guy the last couple of years, but maybe you could get a good season out of him if he can be healthy again as well too. I would still believe again in the level of player that I guess, do you say believe in the level of player? But I guess, what does it mean to say that you believe in the level of player that he has been? But I guess there is proof of concept there that he can be good. And Nate Wiggins is, I guess, obviously a potential, budding star as well too, who can definitely hold up on the outside. It would be interesting if he could, maybe play some slot corner as well too. I don't know, but regardless, I was gonna to bring Trent McDuffie back in, because that's the trade we did end up talking about on Friday, and those are both guys that we do just like as well too. Rem and Sam pod here, we just we're fans of the game. It is what it is. So again, we like to think positively of a lot of these guys' talents, but definitely players that are higher up for guys that we value at their respective spots in the league. And again, it's difficult to say that, is there any player, like we say, outside of the few obvious ones that you could think of just in general, like maybe if, like we say, if Myles Garrett did get traded or something, and again, that would almost seem impossible as well too, if you just didn't throw 7 first-round picks at the Cleveland. But again, there's very few players in the league defensively that could get traded that would be more impactful than Max Crosby. But maybe the McDuffie trade could be more impactful. It would only be because, not only, but it could majorly be because the Ravens defense could be a little bit more complete than the Rams defense could be a little bit more complete than the Ravens defense if it played out that way this season. But again, obviously the way the Ravens are, got the talent stacked up now, that potential is there. And even Matt Abuke as well too. He has been the defensive lineman in the past that has been the all-pro guy for him. I know that he also has been dealing with injuries over the past couple years, or over the past season, and he, I don't know if he's like a contract. Is he a contract victim? I'm not sure about that, but we'll have to see if, once again, if he gets healthy, if that level of play will be consistent with hopefully what he was going for when he was a free agent that one year. But just having Crosby as well too, you would assume would take a lot of pressure off of him. And I guess we don't have access to the years over here. We need to get PFF Plus to see his career grades. But was he first team All-Pro that one year? Because I do just remember, eye test wise, and the Ravens as well was at their 13-3 years, so they were a very national team that year as well too. But he was just going absolutely crazy that year. And I guess Ayo, am I saying his previous name? I'm not trying to disrespect Namdi. Am I saying his name right? Namdi Madubuke. Shout out Namdi Asamoah, get nominated this past year at the NAACPs. Of course, you're running into a force like Michael B. It is what it is. But look out, if there's a year where Nnamdi Asomugha is not, if Michael B. is not making a movie and Nnamdi Asomugha is, then maybe it happens. Or maybe he's in the next Coogler film. That would be sick. Maybe Coogler makes a football movie next. Any Given Sunday remake? Coogler? Are you up for the task? Coogler remakes Any Given Sunday. I mean, we're remaking movies that, are we remaking movies that, dropped 5 years ago? It seems like, and maybe this has always been the case, but, they'll definitely, Hollywood will definitely remake, like, an international film. That's like, oh, this dropped in, 2024, and now it's just being remade as an American film all of a sudden, and it's dropping in 2026. Like, what's happening? But, an Any Given Sunday remake, well, because it does have Chadwick in it. I don't know if Coogler, and obviously, since it is a Chadwick property, I don't know if you would want to remake Chadwick properties as well, too. Because, obviously, you're never going to get an actor better than Chadwick, rest in peace, to play in those roles. That's for sure. But also, again, the filmography is iconic. So, maybe just leave that one unsettled. But I guess you could get Pacino back as like a GM cameo, maybe. That's honestly really what I should have just simplified it and said. Really, is I just want to see also Pacino make a cameo in a Coogler movie. I don't, there's no real reason for it. But if it is a football movie, just Pacino can't. Actually, you know what? Yes, we would want to see Pacino cameo in a Coogler movie because it would guarantee that he's cameoing in a good movie. But I just want to see Pacino cameo in a football movie. Is really what it is. Or just a movie, a basketball movie. I don't know. Shout out Pacino. It is what it is. But yeah, we get Asomugha starring in the next movie. Maybe they should have cast him in that movie with Marlon Wayans. I haven't seen that yet. That has been saying. The only reason I haven't seen it yet is because, and I don't want to say that I've been scared off by the Rotten Tomatoes scores. I should probably, now that I'm saying it, just pause, take the plunge, and just commit. And not to say that, again, it's not necessarily like a Jordan Peele original. I don't know if he wrote the screenplay for it. I know that he was a producer, but I guess we can speak honestly here on the REMINGTOM pod. And again, he's had one of the great director filmographies. So I'm not speaking down on Peele's career by saying that, I'm a little scared to potentially be disappointed by the movie. That's all it is. That's all it is. I'm sure it still will hold up. The only thing we've learned from watching movies, the only thing you learn is you can't trust the critic scores. You watch, it's all subjective, and you're what you enjoy versus what even you what your own personal critical criteria is for a movie. Again, you can look past certain things to enjoy a movie, but regardless, I guess again, there has been a little bit of a we needed to age into being a Tubi classic before we throw it on. I'm not sure, but yeah, we definitely need to commit there. But yeah, get Nnamdi Asomugha, and I'm sure. Does he want to be typecast as a football player? If he truly is an actor, then he'll want to do the role that he's not actually supposed to do. Of course, if he gets cast as like a superhero, he's great at superhero role. He's got to, of course, pivot and do something completely different afterwards. If he's a comic actor, he's got to do the serious role. I guess if he's the serious actor, he's got to pivot at some point and do like a crazy comedy or try to do some franchise type thing. I guess. Unless he's committed to the I guess, yeah, obviously you can be committed to the craft and do whatever you want, but it would just be like I could see him being like, oh, of course I got into acting to be an actor, now I have to be a football player, like a star TV show football player where now he's just committed, and it's like a successful show. It's like 250 episodes. It would be that would be an amazing thing as well too, but I guess. And it's only funny. It's only like 2% funny, but in actor circles in Hollywood, I'm sure it's funny at some parties at a certain point in the night. It is what it is. But regardless, did he play for the Ravens as well too? He did play for the Raiders. Did he have a Raiders Ravens also timeline? I think the Eagles were the other team he played for, so maybe not the and the 49ers is also who he played for as well. But yeah, shout out. But regardless, Marlon Humphrey, Namdi Osman, is there a crossover? I guess shout out to Marlon Humphrey. Hey yo, that it's definitely definitely a compliment for sure. I don't know if again Humphrey's gonna have the post career acting skills that Osama has, but 4 Pro Bowls for Humphrey. Again, we know modern Pro Bowls, but 2 All Pros for him as well. What was he said at 3 Pro Bowls for our guy Namdi Osama, two All Pros for him as well. But 2009 Alan Page Award winner. Don't see no Alan Page Award for Marlon Humphrey yet. But again, kind of one-on-one, like man type of corners to some degree. But yeah, regardless, obviously, Crosby is going to be a major, a major championship piece. The problem is, of course, you could look at the Lamar thing and I guess, do you say the Lamar question mark of it all? But you go watch the film of some of those moments, and I think I would have to go back and I guess again watch the film to remember exactly all the plays of how that likely touchdown played out at the end of that Chiefs playoff game. But I do remember, well, maybe I don't know if I remember people making excuses for the Lamar throw, but I do remember watching some breakdowns of that play being like, the line at which Lamar was, the spot at which Lamar was throwing this pass, and maybe, again, I don't want to just like falsely call out likely as well too, retroactively to defend Lamar. But it's one of those plays where if like you look at the film, it's like maybe great play by the defense. Lamar's probably not totally in the wrong for where he was looking at there. And there was another situation like that recently as well, where I don't remember if it was a playoff game, but a clutch game. Can we pull like the Lamar game log back up? And I know as I'm saying it, I'm sure you guys are going to be able to recall it better, but there was a game where somebody undercut where it looked like he was throwing to the guy maybe in the back of the end zone, and then maybe we call out Mark Andrews this time. Was it Mark Andrews like attempted to catch it in the front of the end zone, ended up knocking down the pass, so maybe it looked like, again, Lamar kind of threw an off-target pass to Mark Andrews, but really, if you look at the film, it's like it should have been an on-target pass to the guy in the back of the end zone, if I'm remembering it all correctly. So, again, I don't want to necessarily just chalk it all up to bad luck and say that, Lamar is definitely 100%, unblameable for all of the playoff stuff that has happened over the last couple of years in Baltimore. But again, it has been a little bit of that as well too. There have been some unlucky moments you just kind of go, okay, like what do you do there? Obviously, likely again, to bring him up, foot on the line just as like a iconic ending. When did Henry had a fumble? Was that in this past regular season? Henry had a fumble at the end of a game that was really, really costly. So, last season, didn't go as planned from the record standpoint from this team. That's for sure. But regardless, again, they definitely need Max Crosby because they just need to have as great of a defense as possible. And if the defense becomes overwhelming, then that's an amazing thing. But they also just need like good luck on offense. Hey, yo. And have they, again, do we remember all the timeline stuff with the field goal kickers as well too? Because I guess 2-point loss to Pittsburgh, did that game go down to a field goal at the end? Like again, there's been so many different scenarios now with the Ravens where they just constantly, and that is a real thing. You look back at Mahomes' career and what do you remember? What you look at back at Brady's career, what do you remember? Time and time again in the fourth quarter, they were able to have these great moments and they were able to win these games. But, and, would Brady have thrown the pass over Mark Andrews so Mark Andrews could have, again, I don't know how Brady actually makes those individual scenarios better, or again, the what do you say, like the sequence of events leading up to those scenarios, especially. But regardless, again, it's just like, is there going to be a year where maybe the breaks go their way, in a sense? And I know that, again, you look at all these championship teams, and even the Seahawks last year, you definitely look at them and go, they probably were the best roster in the league. And I know Sam Darnold, even still, like because of guys like Lamar and Josh Allen in the league that haven't won a title yet, he's still maybe not quite in the tier 1 of quarterbacks in the all-time standing, but the last couple of years, it's been undeniable that he's produced like one of the absolute best quarterbacks in the league. So again, it's like you can't say that Seattle got lucky, but you can definitely look at the Patriots getting to the Super Bowl and say, that's an incredibly favorable path. And again, their defense played extremely well at the end of the season. That like maybe last month and then into the playoffs, you could argue that defense was playing like one of the 6 or 7 just straight up best units in the league. Like, again, they were really, really on fire for sure. But also, does it help that their schedule was super, Super Bowl favorable and like didn't play did they how many playoff teams did they play? And then, again, got into the playoffs, definitely showcased that they were very capable against, the quote unquote playoff level teams in the AFC. But regardless, it was definitely still a path that you'd probably want if you were just, a blank good team looking to get a route to the Super Bowl. So, again, for Lamar, not to say that like, oh, where's the year where he's not going to have to play Josh Allen and Mahomes, and not to say that again, is that the break that he needs to win the Super Bowl, but what is the year where maybe he is going to get his breaks as well. And also, like we're saying, do you have to have the Harvey Dent mentality for this as well too in the NFL? But they're the obvious names to bring up as well too. But again, just to throw them out there, do Brady and Mahomes create their own luck at some point? For sure. But LeBron needs a little suspension from Draymond just to maybe give him a boost, just a little boost in the finals. Again, obviously they go game 6 and game 7. They, obviously, again to bring, we're complimenting Bill Simmons for, looking at, for noticing like Jerry McCain and Con Campbell's draft stocks, I guess back in the day. Hey, that might be a pause, but regardless, now we have to say that he might be a little crazy for, saying that the only reason the Cavs won the finals back in the day is because Draymond got suspended. But again, it does shift the momentum and the flow of the series. That's regardless. I mean, you still have multiple opportunities after that to close it out. And, as a historical precedent, it's not crazy that it should have happened, even if Draymond was suspended as well too, for that one game and returning. But again, it's like, LeBron and Kyrie were also incredible in both of those games. So it's not like they played poorly and just like, the Warriors completely gave them those games. They locked in and won, 2 games where, again, they had to really show out. But regardless, either way, what are we saying? They do need some breaks like that. I know maybe, was Allen on the... He has also been on the opposite side of that as well too. Again, like Mahomes has had the lucky break. Mahomes had, maybe there is something to the team that gets the breaks to make the Super Bowl versus the team that wins the Super Bowl, because, again, Mahomes lost the Super Bowl 2 years ago now, but like that Dawson Knox drop in the fourth quarter where Allen makes this incredible play and definitely should, and was it Knox or Kincaid? I'm getting my tight ends for the Bills mixed up over here. But, they had a receiver, of course, drop a very, very catchable pass there late in the game in a very game-changing type play. But, again, regardless, there's no way that the Max Crosby trade, again, is not impactful. Doesn't make it better. Outside of, the obvious games played sort of factor, I guess that could be for anybody. But yeah, they are just going to need those moments of like, again, is it good luck for the offense? Is it also them execute? It's all those things for sure. But it is, again, to, I guess put it simply, it is those offensive execution question marks that are going to need to be fixed more so than again. And obviously, like we're saying, if their defense is just incredible this year, and especially like if Nate Wiggins takes a step up as a corner and you're like, oh, now he's in the Pro Bowl conversation as well too. Like we're saying, Hamilton's awesome. Roquan Smith is back to be in at a consistent, healthy, high level. Then they might not need to, be as like a high flying offense, because again, as their defense has been capable of maybe making plays, it hasn't always been the best at making stops. And in the regular season, that does matter because now you're putting your offense in compromising spots, and they're going to have to, again, obviously play at a high level. But regardless, you're going to maybe not necessarily be fair to the amount of opportunity as well too when your defense needs to get a stop late in the game and the offense is not going to have a chance to respond. But yeah, I would say that regardless, Max Crosby is one of our favorite players, and I am a little surprised that it did seem like it was not a little light for the first round picks, because again, the NFL trades to the NBA trades is something that is still, obviously you can't compare it, but yeah, if you're approaching it from an NBA mindset, it's just always going to be a little bit confusing. And I think the NFL trades are just confusing in general. And again, at multiple first round picks, are you going to be overly concerned about where they land? But especially if you're trading them for picks in this draft and you know what they are going to be, I don't know. It just seems like you should be able, I guess they don't have the trade on here at this point. Let me see if Tankathon has updated the mock with the Raiders having the Ravens pick. And again, I guess the Ravens didn't have like the greatest regular season this year, but so 14th, the 14th pick in the draft. Okay, I guess it's not bad. I guess that is not bad. That is like a lottery pick. So for some reason, I thought I saw something about it being, maybe I'm getting the year mixed up. Maybe I saw the year and thought that was the number, like 26, and then was the 26th pick. Because I was like, you're trading Max Crosby for a pick in the 20s. Does seem a little bit light. But I guess 14th pick is actually okay. You do start to get to the point where that top, because of the contracts in the NFL, again, the values are just different in the NBA, where, I mean, getting a rookie contract guy in the NBA, especially now, maybe the values start to shift there in a little bit of a different way. But, if, Ruben Bain versus Max Crosby, even if Max Crosby is going to be better over the next couple years, and obviously that could be a real argument. Yeah, I think Ruben Bain's going to be really great. But I'm just saying, in theory, even if you think that Max Crosby is going to be a little bit better, like having Bain as, whatever percentage of Max Crosby on a rookie deal is going to be a pretty valuable asset as well too. Like David Bailey. I mean, again, it depends on the draft, but I'd say for this draft, you're looking at that top 7, 8 as like probably, not going to, not say that you wouldn't trade for Max Crosby, but you might be a little lighter on the future stuff that you have to give up as well too. Like if you're Washington and you're going to look at that 7 pick and say, we want the proof of concept in Max Crosby to win a title this year or compete for a title this year versus, I guess the proof of concept that Ruben Bain has in taking his team to national level. But if you want the NFL proof of concept in Max Crosby, you might not have to give up as much more for him. Obviously, if you're in theory, and if it's on draft night and Ruben Bain's on the board, I guess that's one thing as well too. But if you're trading him pre-draft, it's still pretty close, because you would imagine that you're going to get one of those two guys in Bailey or what are we saying, Bain. But to actually get details on what the trade was here, 2 firsts, yeah. So I guess they don't protect firsts in the NFL for the most part. But let's see. Among the teams, the Ravens beat out for Crosby. Were the Dallas Cowboys, who were willing to offer a first and a second for the star pass rusher. Also, the Cowboys didn't want to throw in the second round, the second first, I guess. That is interesting. The Cowboys obviously do make smart trades. So we do have to, I guess, take them seriously. Is Max Crosby not worth 2 first-round picks? I don't know. But it's just the second. So they didn't have to give up another second or anything else. Okay. So the team that actually does make good trades is the Ravens. And, they're also, speaking of good drafting, also good drafts. Does that mean the Ravens are looking at this draft going, hey, we don't necessarily see the talent at that pick maybe that they would like for a traditional first round, but also I think they just know how great Max Crosby is if they're looking to sacrifice the 2027 pick as well too. And it is also the first time in the history of the Ravens 31-year existence they've used a first-round pick to trade for a veteran player. Whoa, that does make, yeah, I mean, again, they haven't done it recently because they've been so good at drafting, but I guess the first time ever is pretty crazy. So Max Crosby, definitely a name that you're like, okay, you're going to, you're going to give up that card for Max Crosby. I guess it is what it is. But which card are we talking about? But yeah, so it looks like the Cowboys are going to be the only other team that's mentioned as well too as competing. I know that is not true, but and I didn't say Terrell Suggs' name earlier, but I was thinking, yeah, this is definitely since Terrell Suggs, like I said, they have had that's been the the timeline of the pause the gap for them not having maybe the highest level pass rushers, though again, like I guess Van Noy and Dafe Owe are like really good. What do you say? I guess pass rushers, but like specific pass rushers, where like down specific pass rushers, third down pass rushers, pass rush specific, where again Max Crosby can be like an actual 3-down type of guy. So, what is this, like star player traits? I just see Sauce Gardner in here listed. I mean, we still like to see Sauce Gardner listed with Micah Parsons and Max Crosby. I mean, let's hope that still is the case. I guess for all three of those guys, obviously, but I mean, seeing like if we had to rank those three, I don't know if Colts fans would be, super thrilled. And that's the same trade as well too. Oh, chat, that's painful. Which the Colts had the 16th pick. Would we rather have Max Crosby or Sauce Gardner, chat? Hey, yo, we tread lightly, but that's a tough one. That's a tough one. Again, we do get the Buffalo Wild Wings flavor. Max Crosby, I don't think has that, so that is, I guess, something. B-Dubs is a good spot to go watch games here in the Midwest. It's not like we're not going to have the opportunity to be like, hey, can we get the Sauce Gardner, it's like a Travis Scott meal at McDonald's. But, man, hey, 2 firsts for Sauce Gardner or 2 firsts for Max Crosby. And, the Ravens are probably a little closer to winning the Super Bowl because of Lamar. Would we rather have Lamar or Max? We'd probably just rather have Lamar in general. So the Ravens are working from that perspective that is going to give them that advantage. But especially with the Chiefs committing to a rebuild as well too, with trading McDuffie and moving forward with some of these pieces, like there is going to be real opportunity. The Bills are not, I guess there is a reset, but I would say that they're not going to be maybe as long-term focused as Kansas City. Like you could, let's say that Kansas City would like throw away a year because, again, Mahomes is really going to, especially now with Tatum, like having the 300-day recovery from his injury, Mahomes is going to be motivated from just a competitive athlete standpoint to another great player in their respective sport. He's going to want to match that. I don't know if we have proof of him saying that, but the NBA guys, there's like an Achilles, the Achilles Brotherhood. It's like, Greek mythology all over again. It's like the NBA guys that all tore their Achilles have this group chat that they're talking to each other. I'm sure Mahomes is, he wants to get involved. He wants to get in the group chat. He's like, can I get in the text thread with Halliburton and Dame and Jason Tatum? And Mahomes is in this text thread. And I'm sure he's trying to get on the recovery timeline, crazy as well too. But, and because Halliburton was saying that Tatum was reaching out about tips about the recovery, which, again, is crazy. Like, they're literally rivals. The Pacers won the Eastern Conference. I get the humanity is nice. Shout out. You love to see, just helping out another guy. But also, you're trying to win the finals here. I don't know what's going on. But regardless, there is going to be, in terms of the established talent in the AFC, still the Ravens are probably now looking at being the most loaded team in that sense. Again, the Patriots, I guess, are the AFC defending champions, and Drake May as well, too, as a lead quarterback. Of course, you expect to some degree he would get better next year. I guess they did. They waived Stephon Diggs, but, I assume that they'll be able to get some receiver production. It seemed like, Booty and some of the other guys were, did we say Booty was looking good? Hey, yo, Chad. Whoa. But he was definitely having some some productive moments for that team, for sure. But again, they were definitely like the youngest starting offensive line in Super Bowl history as well. They were like the first time 2 tackles or a tackle and a guard like started next to each other. There was like some offensive line rookie stat along those lines. So again, like you would assume they would get better, but the proof of concept for the Raiders is still there. The Chargers with Mike McDaniel, of course, is an interesting wrinkle because, I mean, obviously you're bringing in head coaching pedigree, and yes, obviously things were not going well in Miami by the end. Hey, yo. But speaking of, we got Love and Hip Hop Atlanta on in the background next to this Lakers-Knicks game. Was Mike McDaniel ever on? Did he ever make a cameo on Love and Hip Hop Miami? I guess, do we need, I guess the Chargers, they are in Los Angeles, so they can be on Love and Hip Hop Los Angeles now. And I guess, do I have to double check? Is there Love and Hip Hop Los Angeles? Hey, yo. We got, obviously, what do we got? New York, Miami, and Atlanta. But I'm just throwing out there. If it's not, can we get the rights? Can we get the, okay, Hollywood. Love and Hip Hop Hollywood is what I guess technically it is called. I was gonna say, I guess, yeah, that didn't sound right, but obviously it sounded right. You know, the setting for it to be in. But yeah, could Mike McDaniel make a cameo on Love and Hip Hop Hollywood as the Chargers offensive coordinator? I don't know. Maybe that actually works because would he have too much responsibility as the head coach? But now he can just focus on the offseason. He has time to go make a TV show cameo or two. And I do think reality would be good. He could definitely be in like a scripted show as well too. I don't, if there was like an Atlanta for LA, I guess, again, we don't want to turn everything into IP. Now all of a sudden the Atlanta show's IP, just different shows named after cities, but starring Donald Glover, starring rappers. And just, I guess, that's not, again, we're not breaking ground here, but regardless, Mike McDaniel, we need him in some sort of hip hop, crossover. I don't know why, but he is a character. So, shout out. But is going to probably, definitely help out Herbert's game and definitely boost the Chargers offense and definitely make them more of a threat. And I think that is a good counterbalance to Harbaugh as well too, because I don't know if Harbaugh is, been like a major play calling guy over the last couple of years. Even at Michigan, he wasn't like a big play calling guy. I mean, it's not like he has been, for the Chargers. But again, just to get the highest level of play calling that you can, again, now he's definitely not going to have to necessarily have that on his plate, you would hope, if, again, you're bringing in McDaniels there. But, and I guess Houston was Stroud. Like, there is maybe still like, obviously, it was a bad playoff game, but maybe there is that, okay, if it did turn around, obviously the highest level of that team, again, the variance of that team may be the biggest variance in the AFC at this point, because, again, with the way that playoff game looked, if DeMeco Ryans was gone by week 12 and it's like, hey, Stroud and Kyler Murray are going to be playing Call of Duty together, like, again, that's definitely not surprising. But if they were also winning the AFC South next year and they were like 10-6, and like, okay, again, the defense is good and Stroud's like kind of playing well. And the Montgomery trade, it's like a real trade. I think is the Montgomery trade a more important trade than the Max Crosby trade, because it is going to immediately take pressure. Again, if you really get good starting minutes off, good starting production out of David Montgomery, which based on the last couple of years, again, I know Gibbs has taken more responsibility in that offense, but again, he's just straight up one of the most talented running backs in the league. Montgomery has still shown a level to be a top-end Pro Bowl level starter at times for Detroit, or, Pro Bowl level player there for Detroit. So if they can get that kind of production in Houston, it's going to immediately take pressure off of Stroud and set their offense up in a way where I think the play action, it's just going to get him in an offense that makes more sense. Like, obviously, just having a run game is good for any quarterback. But I think specifically, at least what they have done in the past, again, with their changes in play callers, we'll see if they continue to maybe build on some of the stuff that worked for Stroud there earlier in his rookie year. But it did seem like, he was doing a good job of extending plays and just staying calm under pressure as well, too. He was killing the blitz that year. But, again, they were able to set up a lot of stuff off of a run game that wasn't even, and, Mixon being in and out with health stuff obviously hasn't helped, but Montgomery can, I think, definitely charge the offense there. You get Nico Collins back healthy for a full season potentially as well too. I know that may be, I don't want to say wishful thinking for him, but maybe you get him back for a game where he's not, the injuries aren't compromising him as much. But yeah, the Ravens are gonna have the best name value team, it's looking like, in the AFC. I guess maybe the Bengals. I don't know, because if you do add Caleb Downs at number 10, that is a guy. Caleb Downs and Mansour Delane at 10-11 is crazy luck for some of these teams. I mean, again, the top of this draft is definitely pretty strong. And maybe we just have a bias toward not taking offensive players or not taking like weapons this early in the draft. Like, I definitely don't mind taking a weapon after. What was the Justin Jefferson pick? Like 17? Like, for some reason that seems like the cutoff. 17 or lower. Okay, like Jamar Chase, taking him at 5 back in the day. You're going to redraft that. You're not going to draft him lower. unless unless there's like 6 crazy defensive ends that you just have to take out of that draft that I'm not thinking of. And I'm not recalling the other quarterbacks in that class right now as well too. Obviously, other than Burrow, but was that the Mac Jones Fields draft, or am I mixing that up with a different one? Or was that was the Trevor Lawrence draft? Maybe that was, yeah, Trevor Lawrence, Fields, Mac Jones, and then Trey Lance was Trey Lance the other guy that got taken. So yeah, I guess I don't remember right now. Was it Burrow, Herbert, and Tua? Yeah, I guess I wasn't thinking. For some reason, I was thinking Herbert and Tua and Fields, or Herbert and Tua and Hurts and Love, and those guys were in a different class. But yeah, no, that was Burrow's class, because Burrow and Hurts were going for the Heisman that year. So, yeah, I guess from that standpoint, because the quarterback class worked out so well, then yes, actually, I take it back. You might actually not draft Jamar Chase in the top 5, but you could. Again, it depends on the season. Obviously, Jalen Hurts, after you won the Super Bowl MVP, there's no way that you're taking Jamar Chase over him. Right now, maybe not everybody in the league views Jalen Hurts as highly, or Jordan Love even as well. So you could genuinely make a case, though I think you would have to ultimately, lean toward just taking the chance, if you would say that, on the franchise guy. But, yeah, regardless, that is definitely, like we're saying, good luck for the Bengals if they do go offense. I mean, the Chiefs could go running back for sure. Love would be a weapon, and just might be as one of those just straight up too dynamic of an athlete to pass on type of running backs. I don't know if his combine was pretty crazy, that's for sure, and again has definitely carried his team to high levels of success in college as a running back. Though maybe didn't quite have like a Derrick Henry, Ezekiel Elliott type tenure. The obviously the numbers are pretty crazy, but would definitely boost that offense. Though again, them getting Caleb Downs would be insane. Them getting Delane would be awesome as well too. And 3 secondary guys that high in the draft is 2 safeties in the top 12 is a little rare, but you love to see it. Again, we are pro safety here on we love safety on the Room and Sand Pod. We're lame, but in terms of football players, we do love safeties. It is what it is. I think the Miami, I don't think we have to go back. I don't know what their safety class look like for this year. But, hey, speaking of guys that are, I guess, I don't know if we say getting a little undervalued at this point. Again, I think Ruben Bain is consensusly viewed in this top tier. And we'll see if on once draft night, if these teams actually commit to just taking Sonny Styles and David Bailey over Ruben Bain. This definitely could be some post-combine hype, because I don't think Bain he didn't put up any numbers at the combine. He was bad performance. No, I don't think he performed at all at the combine. Again, I'm not saying that disparagingly. I'm just saying that he doesn't have that hype momentum that you do get from that performance. Again, in theory, he doesn't need it. He's not, I guess, going to be the number 1 pick because Mendoza is going to be the number 1 pick. I guess you could say, though, of all of the guys over the course of the year, he's probably had the closest argument of anybody to actually being the number 1 pick. But again, it's just not going to have that hype, that draft season hype that you get at this time for having these crazy athletic performances. So again, will the board even out a little bit differently, because we still are over a month and a half away from the draft, so it still will really go crazy. I mean, even Arvell Reese could, is he in danger? I don't know. Could Ruben Bain get drafted over Arvell Reese? I think when we, as we do get toward the draft, of course, I don't think people tend to get scared away from good athletes, as, again, we see from some of these conversations. But regardless, the on-the-field talent was, as undeniable from anybody from Ruben Bain this year. And we've said it time and time again with quarterbacks, but I think it goes for every player. And it's a little like in the NBA where, you judge a lot of the championship teams by their lead guys. I mean, again, as you maybe say as you should. I don't know. But, chat, we got windows open and I feel a sneeze building. But I think we might be able to fight it off. I don't know if we can, summon it here real quick or... Oh, wait. Whoa! Oh, chat, it was close. Oh, chat. I don't know, performance issues with the sneeze, I guess. It is what it is, but it was right there. It was right there. Hey, yo, I don't know. I guess, the need to sneeze is gone. So that's, I guess, is that what you're going for at the end of the day? But I don't know. Is a sneeze satisfying? Pause. I'm not sure. I guess we'll have to. We'll really pay attention when we actually sneeze next time. Was the tease better than the sneeze? I don't. Hey yo. That's a something that we have to have behind a paywall. That's for sure. Oh man, IT might have to cut that out. We might not be allowed to say that on YouTube. That's. Our apologies if you're listening to a kid with a kid in the car. That is tough. That is not great. But I guess don't explain it obviously if you're able to get away. But hey yo, we'll just try to keep moving the best we can. I was trying to find if we could just find the results for this year. Feels like they normally just have a results page here, but it looks like, well, they do. But okay, yeah, here's, I would say they had a historic ranking there, but, or maybe I was just not paying attention. But okay, what are we looking at here for Miami? I guess we were trying to see if Ruben Bain performed. That's what it was. And yeah, David Bailey with the 4.5 Reese. I mean, literally the two fastest guys I get as at their, respective draft spots in this class. So yeah, we didn't see him. I guess we could just go to his page as well too and see his numbers there. But like we were saying, I guess for the but like before we got distracted, for the NBA, you judge all these teams by their best players, but you see time and time again that the quote unquote role guys are constantly in the same winning teams as well too. Like, of course, it's no coincidence that Robert Horry was able to win championships on all these teams because he was able to majorly impact these lineups as, maybe not always being the best guy in the lineup. But is Robert Horry, the best fourth, fifth man of all time? And again, it depends on now how you're building these lineups as well too. If your fourth guy is Klay Thompson because now you've added, Kevin Durant and Draymond Green scoring 35 points in Game 7, obviously, Robert Horry versus Klay Thompson is an interesting one. Could Robert Horry have had Klay Thompson's career if he was putting up as many shots? But I don't think so. I think Klay Thompson is decisively a better offensive player than Robert Horry. I don't think that's a hot take. Again, I can't necessarily speak on his individual game too much, but just from sort of the moments that I've seen, I would still give the edge to Thompson there pretty easily at the peak of their powers. But regardless, again, in terms of their impact for lineups, he has been one of those guys that, and again, for maybe lineups that you can actually build realistically, is just a guy that is proven to constantly impact championship teams. And I think that this means something for this Miami team as well too. And I think it does mean something for Carson Beck because it's not a coincidence. I guess Georgia was, they're a playoff team in their own right. They didn't necessarily need Carson Beck to, what do you say, get to the playoffs. But, again, if they had Carson Beck, could they have been in the national championship game versus Indiana? Again, depending on the path as well, too. And it's an easy statement to say. I think Bain is a better defensive line talent than their defensive. I mean, both of their lines were better than Georgia this year. So I think maybe it's fair to say that Miami was just a better straight-up football talented team than Georgia if we're talking about situations for Carson Beck. But it's like, hey, this guy was able to take these teams to a certain level. I don't think that is necessarily a coincidence, at least from a, that Division I level production standpoint. But for things that could translate to the NFL, again, I don't know if Bain, because of the athletic testing, will necessarily be the best defensive lineman in the league. I guess we'd have to go back and double check that because that is one of the spots where, where obviously guys can tend to get overdrafted because they're really, really good athletes, but it seems like the ones that are really good athletes and also produce, it's and they get drafted really, really highly. That's called a really, really, talented prospect for sure. You have athletic upside and you're also production upside as well too. But, those guys, at least the names that I'm thinking of, do seem to pan out as well. I'm trying to think, who's, the best college athlete that put up, 17 sacks. I guess maybe, hey, yo, do you say, Clowney? But even still, Clowney, Clowney's like a really, really good football player. I know, again, you wouldn't necessarily go back and draft him number one, and we could go back and pull up the class as well too. Like, what is the baseline? If Ruben Bain is Jadeveon Clowney, and again, that unfortunately does not feel like the best version of Clowney's career that we got. He still made 3 Pro Bowls and was a second-team All-Pro in his 3rd year. So still managed to display like a certain level of talent. Has never had a double-digit sack season, which is crazy. But again, obviously the capability to do it is there. Pause. It's like 9 sacks, 9.5 sacks, 9.5 sacks again, 8.5 sacks last year in Dallas. It's like, okay, just like if the season adds an 18th game, he'll probably, still not play enough. But regardless, he'll be close. He'll be close. On a per set, and I guess, yeah, on these seasons, he's not even playing the full season. 9 sacks in 15 games, 9.5 in 15 starts, 8.5 in 13. So this was like his best production season in terms of a per game basis last year. Let's see what we've got per 0.65. I guess it doesn't really qualify because of the 13 games. Wait, where is it? Oh, here it is. 0.65. Oh, I guess. Hey, yo. The sort is just, for some reason, not working right. I guess it is giving the full seasons the nod there. Pause. Hey, yo. Is that also right up there with the tease? Is the tease better than the sneeze? You got to give the full season the nod. But 59.59 sacks per game, 0.59. And then, 6-0, 6-4, 6-5. Do we keep counting up, chat? What numbers would we get to? I don't know. But, of course, like we're saying, at least per game, he was having a good season last year with the Cowboys. So they don't need Max Crosby if you have Jadeveon Clowney. You're good to go. But, if that's I guess we didn't even see the class. If that's the worst that he would be, I mean, that's still, again, like a really, really productive player. Like Thibodeau right now, like Thibodeau hasn't quite, at this point, again, emerged onto like a first-team All-Pro basis. And I think the only reason his timeline is as, just like he's got Hutchinson in his class, of course, to directly compare production against, where it's like, hey, yo. And they were closely argued at the time of the draft as well. So, you're going to give him a little bit of the benefit of the doubt. So, like, can he play up to that level? How many seasons before we just have to fully, say that, I guess, like, not say it's not even close, but it's just like, the degrees of separation has happened. But, hey, yo, you've got Aaron Donald and Khalil Mack both in this draft class, and DeMarcus Lawrence. So it just turns out this Jadeveon Clowney 2014 draft class was actually the perfect draft class to take a defensive lineman number 1. This might be arguably one of the best defensive lineman classes of all time. I don't want to say that lightly, but again, DeMarcus Lawrence did just help this Seattle team win a Super Bowl. So I know he's a little behind on the career sack numbers at this point. Also, maybe a little behind. Oh, that's his weighted value. I was going to say behind in the career games played, but no, he's actually played more than Donald. And Donald has twice as many sacks from the interior. Hey, yo. And shout out to Khalil Mack as well, too. Obviously, a crazy production number already being past Aaron Donald and still going to be able to hopefully compile more there as well, too, as his career goes. But, again, Clowney to be 4th behind those guys, like, he could still be incredible and be the 3rd or 4th best player in this class. Like, how great do you have to be? Aaron Donald is literally arguably the best defensive line. It might be him and, I had to remember Lawrence Taylor there for a second. It might be him and Lawrence Taylor as the best defensive lineman of all time. Reggie White, Alan Payne, Alan Payne. Shout out Alan Payne. Is Alan Payne gonna be in this Cougler football movie as well too? Nnamdi Asomugha, Ryan Coogler starring Nnamdi Asomugha and Alan Payne. Hey, yo, you didn't expect it in 2028, but I think it's a hit. But for Clowney, anyways, and I don't think that this is the comparison because in 2014 draft, we were locked in, but I don't know if we had the boards going, the notes, the football talent, maybe the same way as we have some of these years. But I don't know where Clowney was at with like the pass rusher skills. He was obviously, again, just a menacing athlete. And, unfortunately, the only play I can think of, or not the only play I can think of, but, the defining play of his career, I should say, for for Michigan. But I guess, it's such a traumatizing play that it is also in some ways the only play that we can think of, because it literally just the hit is so vicious. It literally makes us forget whatever else happened that year. It's just like, hey, yo, Clowney just like knocked all the football memories out of us when he tackled that Michigan running back. For South Carolina, like, hey, just such a vicious tackle. Hey, yo, breaks right through the line, makes contact like right as the handoff exchange is happening. It's a fumble. It's, again, like, concussion for seven years of recovery. Like, you hate to say it, but again, it was just a defining play for the decade for college football is how vicious it was. But again, I think Bain is maybe a little bit better as a pass rusher than Clowney, but he is strong as well too. So I don't want to keep bringing Verse's name back up, but maybe a little bit of like a Verse comp, though. Again, Verse had a very, very very productive combine, which is why we remember him as a player as well too, because we were like, oh, we're still in the era of like, how do you judge combines versus game tape. And I think it is just kind of a you just have to weigh everything literally on a case by case basis, and it's just helping add to the piece. It's got to be adding to the piece of the puzzle that you do see on the game tape. But you've got Verse at 6'3", basically 6'4", 254. So Bain's 6'4", 263. I think they are like the same. That's like the same. That's like the Verse is like 2 inches taller and a little lighter. Bain is 2 inches shorter, a little heavier. So wingspan 6'7.5" for Verse. I guess it's got arm length versus wingspan here for Bain. And again, 13th athletic score, like Verse. 31 reps on the bench press was like top 3 or 4 in the entire class that year. Again, like incredibly strong. And 4.58 on the 40 is obviously, a very, very, very productive 40 time as well too. And then 35 inches on the vertical leap. So just, explosive athlete. And then just one of the, again, on tape, just one of the strongest pass rushers in college football. So it wasn't surprising that you're just like, man, he can move these offensive linemen. And that can be one of those things where you're trying to judge that. You're like, okay, like if you're not necessarily going to always be able to win a matchup with hand talent, like, can you legitimately win with strength in the NFL? And it's like, okay, he's literally putting up some of the best NFL numbers from a strength test standpoint with 31 reps in the bench press. Maybe that is a translatable skill. And guess what? He goes into an NFL and he's able to just, tear apart the NFL as well too. And has been amazing for this team. Is going to help him be a Super Bowl contender next year with Trent McDuffie as well. But, and, obviously the other defensive line talent that they've been able to acquire there. But, yeah, I don't know necessarily where the athletic parallels are for Verse, or if you have a pro day. I guess, again, they do have Brandon Graham here as a comp by Lance Zierlein. I want to say Brandon Graham, was he 263? Oh, he was 265. So, yeah, he was kind of compact like that as well, too. He made 1 All-Pro team and 1 Pro Bowl in his career, but 2-time Super Bowl champ. So, was able to obviously be a playoff impact guy. And if we looked at his playoff resume here, 2 forced fumbles in back-to-back playoffs. And, yeah, has, been able to at least get to the quarterback at some point in their playoff runs. 5.5 sacks in how many playoff games? 13 games, 5.5 sacks, 6 starts, 5.5 sacks. And for his career, 79.5 for his entire NFL career, 16 years. I don't know if he's officially retired yet at this point, but, again, I don't know if he'll be getting up near the double-digit numbers. He did get 11 in 2022. I think he can definitely get, he can be in that 8 to 12 range consistently, again, if we're going like a floor. Oh, Michael Bennett? Michael Bennett's interesting. Wait, can we go to Michael Bennett's page here real quick and see what his stats are? Another guy that was on Super Bowl teams as well, played for the Pats, played for the Seahawks, but managed to get 1 there. 3 Pro Bowls The 15, 16, 17 seasons, 10 sacks, 5 sacks in 11 games, though, and then 8.5 sacks in 16 games, 9 sacks in 16 games, 7.5, 9. So I would, again, even maybe a smidge up from that as well, too. Like, I don't know if we can compare him to Trey Hendrickson, because Trey Hendrickson also has been like 15 plus sacks as well, too. And he is kind of fast off of around the edge versus I don't know if he necessarily would play like Bain would play in the NFL. Max Crosby is an interesting one, honestly. I don't know if that comp has been made, but there is like a relentlessness to which they both play. Let's see what they have for weaknesses here. Ducks heads and drops eyes, diving into run block. And obviously we're not trying to pick on his weaknesses. I'm just trying to see, why other people obviously are maybe knocking his game down compared to, and again, it's only one other edge at this point that you're arguing. It's between him and David Bailey for that top spot. But short arms will get him crowded at the point of attack. I mean, the problem is we know that like a guy like Aaron Donald, you have to be an Aaron Donald level specimen to be as productive. Is Ruben Bain going to be the best defensive lineman of all time? If you cut this out in a couple years and he is, then shout out. Obviously, that's great for Ruben Bain. But, can he still be, what is 75% of Aaron Donald's production? I guess 11. I guess that is actually, what did we just say, 79 sacks. So, hey, chat, it does work out. That is Brandon Graham is actually literally 80% of 75, 80% of Aaron Donald's production. So he needs to be 90% of Aaron Donald's production. But Khalil Mack is also interesting. Maybe, again, Khalil Mack's, like, do you say maybe his average numbers versus what his high-end numbers have been? Because he can be, again, like maybe a 16, 17, 18 sack kind of season. I don't know if I would ever see Ruben Bain, getting like TJ Watt, Myles Garrett, Micah Parsons. Brian Burns, 16.5. Danielle Hunter. Ooh, Danielle Hunter is an interesting production comp as well. Will Anderson. Josh Sweat, definitely. I think more specific. I think Ruben Bain can be more of a 3-down guy as well, too, which does give... Again, Max Crosby has value in a matchup over guys like Josh Sweat and over guys like Chase Young, who did maybe have better sack numbers or equal sack numbers. James Pierce in Atlanta, I guess we'll still have to see how his career, of course, evolves. But Crosby is just a menace on all 3 downs, and you don't have to necessarily worry about getting him subbed in and out. I mean, it's the Raiders also just way the team is built. Like, Max Crosby is just going to be out there all the time. They don't necessarily have like a crazy pass rusher rotation to go to. But I think that Benito, again, maybe a little pass rusher specific as well too. Again, maybe a little lighter as like an actual outside linebacker. But Clowney, 8.5, top 20 in sacks last year. Dallas Turner, 8 sacks. Rashawn Gary is interesting. And, again, maybe I'm not judging these guys by, like, what they've done this exact season. Because, the best version of, I guess, 9 sacks. It always goes to Ruben Bain not getting double-digit sacks. Hey, our own projections are not being favorable, chat. I don't like it. Because, again, the eye test, I mean, he was one of the most dominant players in college football. I know that doesn't always necessarily line up to the NFL in any sort of, it could be quarterbacks, it could be whatever. But the fact that it was able to translate to winning, I think, again, does have to be not taken lightly as well, too. And he does have a very, very complete skill set. I know that he is, again, a little lacking with the first step, which maybe, again, is why I'm not sitting here saying that you would take him over Mendoza. Like, there might have been a point in the season where I would have made that argument just as like a hot take angle, just because of like, could you have, just because of how important defensive ends can be in the NFL. Of course, them and offensive tackle, there's a couple spots where if you just could make an argument for anybody over quarterback in general, of course, defensive lineman is going to be one of those spots of the field. So, again, I don't know if you could necessarily make like a Sonny Styles over Mendoza case at this point, just because I don't know if you could make a linebacker over quarterback case at any point. But But again, I think that I would still consider him the safest defensive line bet of the class, and I don't know if that's a hot take. Again, you're taking Reese and you're taking Styles because of the crazy athletic testing and because of the upside, and maybe same with Bailey. But again, even Bailey, like 14 and a half sacks is not nothing. Like 14 and a half sacks. I know Bain is at 9.5, but also they have another first round guy here as well too, and Akeem Mesidor, and he had 12 and a half in his own right. So again, you may say, is he the better prospect? Hey, we may look back in 7 years and be like, well, I mean, hey, why are we surprised that the guy that had more sacks than Ruben Bain is better than Ruben Bain? And guess what? I would really value Mesidor because he was able to outperform Ruben Bain. Kendrick Falk, I know maybe not necessarily able to have the same opportunity as, like we're saying, Mesidor, but regardless, I think you do have to, consider those types of things when you're measuring players at this tier in the class. Though, again, obviously the attention being paid to Bain by the teams themselves does show you the level of talent and seriousness at which people value his game. But it is, and I'm not saying that we're always going to subconsciously sit here and argue against the Ohio State guys to work their way up the draft boards, but I'm just saying that I think there is it does pay me a little bit that Sonny Styles has jumped over him in this way. And, again, the offensive tackle, that could just be need as well, too. Like the Browns don't need a defensive lineman because they obviously have Myles Garrett. But just in terms of the big board, I guess here, let's actually check and see. Do they have they do have Styles one spot below Bain at this point, at least according to the Tankathon big board. So do they have Mendoza? Or again, I think maybe you could argue Bain is a better prospect or football player or whatever. You could make a draft board argument for Bain over Mendoza, but I think that for the need and obviously for what the quarterback is, it's not a difficult conversation if you have the right prospect that you need to go in that direction. And I think Mendoza, of course, has crossed that threshold of being a reliable enough prospect that, you do need to easily commit. But Arvell, Reese, and Bailey and Downs, it does get interesting. And, we do love, just like we said, Caleb Downs as just like a football player in general. I know we would also have to make, specific team building concessions when it happens to, when it comes to picking between a safety and a defensive lineman. But regardless, I think a secondary help can be in some ways just as impactful. And I think that Downs is one of those linemen that can definitely get to that threshold where, again, you could make that argument. But I might do, again, do I say Bain is number one on the board from a talent standpoint? Because the other defensive lineman that I had in my mind as well, too, if we're going, I guess, the athlete that, maybe didn't match the production in the league or whatever, again, not to say that Bain was the athlete, but just if it was like that 7 to 8 sack production. But the other name I was thinking of was, of course, Aiden Hutchinson as well, too, as just the guy that's like, we saw him dominate college, and just because a guy or two tested better than him athletically in the combine, now you're going to, doubt his talent because of that. And did Aiden Hutchinson have like a short arm situation as well, too? I don't know. But again, I think Aiden Hutchinson was like actually a good athletic tester. I think it was obviously just the Jags getting a little too cute by taking Walker there. They're like, well, okay, obviously whichever offensive or whichever defensive lineman we take is going to be great. So we'll just take the one that has the higher upside and the crazy athletic, whatever profile. But I guess 4.74 is maybe a step slow, ish, but still 28 on the bench press, 36 in the vertical jump. Like, he's right there. He's right there. 3-cone drill at 6.37, like a little bit of a downtime. I'm not sure. 6.8 all the way. So I guess his wingspan being shorter than his body. Hey, if he was in the NBA, now he's really going to fall down the draft boards. So, again, people are going to make those random arguments, but like literally we know that wingspan doesn't matter. We know that it doesn't matter, so we can cross that off as something as to a reason why he might be. Oh, where was that at here? Short arms will get him crowded at the point of attack. No. He's fine. Average pursuit speed out to the flanks. So, again, that is 40 time stuff. I guess, the things you can't change. But will take some plays off when the action doesn't come his way. That sounds like good fatigue management to me. You don't want to be, do you always want to be crushing the stamina bar? Again, I guess if you're Max Crosby, but if you can play like that, then play like that. Not everybody can necessarily play like that all the time. I think when you see, the thing is Bain taking plays off when he shouldn't be taking plays off? If the play is a pitch to the outside and they get a really good first step and it's like, okay, they've completely run away. I mean, you can say, okay, let me turn, like Max Crosby, let me turn around, let me work my way back up the field. If he's going to break some tackles, maybe I can start working on getting an angle on him so I get him maybe 25, 30 yards down the field instead of, he breaks away for a touchdown because people give up running. And you never know what play you can make. I get it. I'm not going to sit here and not coach consistent effort. But I'm just saying that there is obviously a certain level of player where you can get away with things, but there is also a certain type of play where you can get away with things as well too. Again, to speak to the NBA, do you want your guy to be like Con Knuppel and Jared McCain running around the court the entire time? But there might be times where, and again, McCain specifically gets to, play that way, in extra bursts because also he maybe not is playing as many, he's not playing as many minutes as he may normally get in like a starting lineup. So, he can maybe use a little bit more energy up as well too. But I don't know if there just seems like there are real plays that if they're not if he's not necessarily going to be contributing to the play, then again, it's a long season. It's fine. He's basically been heralded as like a top 7 pick the entire class, so maybe he's not going to be as locked in for every play. Again, it's competitive mindset. I get all these things, but I think that it's okay to understand human nature as well too. And I guess I just didn't personally see like hey, did he take a play off and all of a sudden now it's being costly, detrimental to the team. But it says counters don't come naturally at the top of the rush. Average closing burst to the quarterback, average pursuit speed out to the flanks. So again, obviously not a fan of just his natural athletic ability, according to the draft reports that we get here. But Bain's explosiveness, toughness should translate given his high floor as an NFL starter. He can rush off the edge or mismatch guard as sub-package runner. His playoff runs his ability to generate quick wins. If tackles are passive against him, he plays through tight ends and can anchor against tackles. However, his lack of length can lead to him being smothered. If he doesn't land the first strike, he can bend and flip his hips at the top of the rush, swipe away punches, and generate a strong bull rush. His playoff run showed an ability to generate quick wins if tackles are passive in setting to him. So, again, I think though these are all the positives you want from a pass rusher, and in some ways some of the negatives that you want as well too. Like you could probably coach up these counters in some way. Coached by NFL rush aficionado Jason Taylor. Oh, Jason Taylor's an interesting one. Again, now the bar becomes a little bit too high again. Not say too high, but Jason Taylor is also a Hall of Famer. But one of those underrated Hall of Famers over there, 6-time Pro Bowl, 3-time All-Pro, and he's almost underrated again for how great he is. But I think he is a great player that people do know about. Again, I don't know if his name gets brought up a lot for like who are the best pass rushers of the 2000s. And that is a weird era for that as well too. There isn't maybe as defined of a single name. Shout out of course the Colts guys from that era and Freeney and Mathis, but Seymour on the Patriots being the leader of Super Bowl. And maybe Seymour is the comp as well too. Shout out Seymour was on our 25 for 25 team when we were drafting teams there, and the team that we drafted, we ended up with Richard Seymour, and that's awesome. But maybe a little bit, as I say, a little bit bigger than Bain, 6'6", 317. He could play tackle, so he was a specimen of an athlete that could, again, be used all over the defensive line. But could Bain be this type of sneaky producer, but again, major impact type of guy. I guess who is the Richard Seymour of defensive ends is really the question. That is tough. But again, I don't know if Crosby has had like maybe 15 is like his highest total, which is great. You know, obviously if you're getting 15 sacks in a season, you're one of the best pass rushers in the league. 14 and a half. So yeah, he's had 10, 7, 8. Second team All-Pro, 8 sacks, 12 and a half Pro Bowl, AP Defensive Player of the Year, 6 in AP Defensive Player of the Year voting, but did not make a Pro Bowl team this year. And then 14 and a half, again, second team All-Pro, and 4th in Defensive Player of the Year voting. And then 2 Pro Bowls. So again, a half a decade of Pro Bowls for Max Crosby at this point. This feels like it could be pretty realistic, pretty comparable production. And, you know, maybe it doesn't quite add into the All-Pros in Defensive Player of the Years. You may say, why is that if he plays with the same amount of number, or gets the same amount of production? I guess, you know, tackles for a loss being slightly higher could be something. He's only forced 1 fumble. Recovered 1 fumble. I was going to say, hey, yo. Recovered 3 fumbles. There we go. It's going into focus there. But, you know, yeah, forcing multiple fumbles, you know, leading the league in tackles for a loss 2 years in a row. So could Ruben Bain legitimately lead the league in tackles for a loss is a real question. Again, maybe Thibodeau is the other guy. We're just comparing him to the entire draft class that year. I don't know. But he's somewhere between Aiden Hutchinson and Max Thibodeau. Pause. Hey, yo. But those are decent ranges to fall into. I mean, Thibodeau is, again, like Clowney. I know Thibodeau doesn't have the expectations of being the number 1 overall pick, but like Clowney, he's still a really high draft pick who, even if he's not made a ton of Pro Bowls or All-Pros or something early on, he's been very, very productive. Burns as well, too. I mean, and again, all those guys playing together. And I also did forget about Danielle Hunter, again. As I mentioned, Cam Jordan. Oh, Cam Jordan's a good one. Hey, yo, pause. I think Cam Jordan might be the comp. 6'4", 287, so he is a little bit heavier. And his highest sack total is, he did have 15 and a half in 2019, but in 132 for his career. Again, obviously the longevity is insane, but this type of range could definitely be it. You know, that constant second team All-Pro, and then super impactful, super good, you know, community guy, teammate. Obviously, everybody raves about Cam Jordan. He definitely could be like successful business guy afterwards, or go into media, or go into team running operations and be really, you know, he just obviously like just a great guy. Hey, yo, everybody loves Cam Jordan, and Ruben Bain is like that as well too. I don't know if we're able to pull up like the grades for Ruben Bain at Miami, but I feel like we did there were some games that we watched where there was maybe like an academic student highlight at some point, and they highlighted Ruben Bain for his accomplishments there. So, you know, again, I think you gotta give him respect where the respect is due. So that might be a good comp, honestly. And again, it could be one of those weird things. Maybe the 2011 draft class was defensive rookie of the year. Yeah, see Von Miller. Like there's just somebody that's going to be. So I mean, that is the importance of nailing the draft as well too. It's not like, well, let's just take Ruben Bain because we know he's. I guess that is drafting to some degree. Like I'm saying, maybe I don't know who's going to be the best player in this class, but I do know Ruben Bain is going to be the second best pass rusher in this class, and maybe that's what I am verbalizing as well too. Cameron Hayward, 92 sacks in his career. Robert Quinn. People forget about Robert Quinn. What draft was this? 2011 draft. I mean, again, I guess the career ended in 2022, but was not necessarily producing, you know, double-digit sack numbers all the way till the end. So just explosive start there to his career. He had 19 sacks in 2013, and then 18 and a half in 2021. Hey, yo, I totally forgot about Robert Quinn dominating for the Bears, you know, merely 4 years ago. But I guess it did happen, and that does ring a bell a little bit as well, too. The fact that he made second-team All-Pro is also pretty crazy. But again, I don't know if he could quite have that season, though. 6'4", 245, I guess, somewhere, in between, again, Cam Jordan and Quinn. This is another good one. Hey, yo, I just said the last one was the greatest defensive draft class of all time. Miller versus, again, Aaron Donald is like at least a competition. I think Donald still probably wins at the end of the day. And J.J. Watt, I mean, who was the second guy? It it was Aaron Donald and DeMarcus Lawrence and Khalil Mack. Khalil Mack versus J.J. Watt. I think that 1-2 is better. I think Von Miller and J.J. Watt is a higher overall 1-2 than Aaron Donald and Khalil Mack. I think it's really, really close. But you've got more defensive player of the years in Watt, and you've got a Super Bowl MVP in Miller, which cancels out in some ways Aaron Donald a little bit. Again, if I'm building a team, I guess that, which is maybe always the right answer, but I don't know. Then you add DeMarcus Lawrence versus Cam Jordan and it becomes another tough battle as well too. Even Ryan Kerrigan, I guess you have more guys with 90 plus sacks in this draft. Jubal Shard with Alden Smith. Oh, Chad, you want to talk about lost talent, obviously. Jarrell Casey, Muhammad Wilkerson, Adrian Claiborne, Pernell McPhee, Marcel Darius. I mean, this class really well. I'm not even joking. Marcel Darius made an all-pro. We're being serious right now, chat. This is 100% serious commentary. He made an all-pro, two Pro Bowls. Again, a short sort of, a short run at the top. Pause. It is what it is. But was still a very, 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 very productive defensive tackle when he was cooking. So, yeah, of course, I would say the Cam Jordan comp might be the one. Again, Justin Houston, I think a little bit more of a speed, bend, quickness type of pass rusher. Same with Kerrigan. And Cam Hayward is honestly kind of just become a defensive tackle as well, too, more so than a defensive end. Though Jarrell Casey is an interesting comp. What do we have for Jarrell Casey? Oh, 6'1", 305. Okay, so Casey is, I don't know exactly when they took those measurements for his career, but in a little bit of a different tier. So, yeah, shout out. I don't know if we actually made an official comparison for Mendoza. Chad Pennington, did we throw that one out there in the Mendoza pod? I don't know if we did, but we're throwing it out there now. We're going back to Mendoza real quick. Pause. Whoa. Chad Pennington is a Mendoza. Mendoza is going to be 2-time comeback player of the year and then a most improved. Oh, but second in MVP voting. Is that right? Hey, yo, Chad Pennington, 2008, 11-5 Miami Dolphins, 19 touchdowns, 7 interceptions, and he was second in MVP voting. That is crazy. Yeah, Manning first, Pennington second, Michael Turner number 3, James Harrison, Adrian Peterson, Phillip Rivers, Chris Johnson, Kurt Warner is the ballot from that year. So, wait, we've got Pennington at 6'3", 230. What was Mendoza? Like 6'4". He might be in that range. If he's 6'4", it might count. Though Pennington might need, or Mendoza might need to make a Pro Bowl based on our projections. He might need to put up some accomplishments. We're not going to necessarily discount the opportunity for him to collect those. But just to see what other quarterbacks might be in his range here. And then I guess we could look at Carson Beck next as well, too. Double check the draft stuff that we've got going on there. 6'5", 236 for Carson Beck. So wait, Pennington 6'3", 230? Oh, it is close. It is close. Again, are you going to take a quarterback that doesn't make a Pro Bowl, number 1 overall? Maybe in this class you will. I don't know. But let me think. Jay Cutler. No, he's not Jay Cutler. I know people have thrown out Matt Ryan. I don't even remember if we threw out Matt Ryan or Kirk Cousins during the comp or during the film room for Mendoza. But like I said, I don't know if I'm necessarily a major fan of either of those. Matt Ryan is okay. I don't know how many Pro Bowls he made here. Can we find like a 3 Pro Bowl offensive player of the... Burt Jones. Mendoza is Burt Jones. Hey, yo. So, Matt Ryan with a lowercase r apparently does not exist here. Let's see. This has to be the right... Okay, boom. We are finally there. So, 4 Pro Bowls, 1 All-Pro, and then 1 an MVP. So, obviously, could Mendoza win an MVP if he was playing in a Shanahan offense? Sure. And then 4 Pro Bowls and an All-Pro? Maybe 2 and 2. Maybe 2 and 2, like his 2 best seasons. He's just amazing. And you have to give him his respect as the best quarterback in the league. Otherwise, maybe he gets a little bit left behind in the conversation, which is actually, as I say, a pretty realistic way that I think it could play out. But Bain as Cam Jordan is really interesting as well too. We'll continue to workshop the Mendoza one. Actually, we'll workshop it real quick. We'll take a quick break, and then we'll be back to wrap up the rest of the live stream. And keep going with the Miami Fun Room for a little bit. We got a couple more Miami players to mention before we take off here tonight. But yeah, we'll be right back. All right, chat, before we go, did we save the best for last? Hey, yo, offensive lineman talk. I mean, if we're talking Miami, of course, it does have to be brought up because Francis Moyo is the old FM radio himself, chat, is, maybe, again, arguably the best Miami player. If you're going to not say it's Ruben Bain, I know that we may not always be able to, break down everything from the offensive lineman standpoint, but he has been consistently valued at the top of the class the entire year. I know that might not seem like much, but a name that we have been watching in the class quite a bit because he is from the home state and was committed to the home state. Has had a back and forth, relationship with, of course, at least the home school here for Iowa. But Caden Proctor at Alabama. I mean, there is a world where Caden Proctor is also a top 7-10 pick in this class as well too. I mean, Spencer Fano from Utah has also been up near the top of the class, but just watching the Tankathon boards anyways, they've at least been favoring the Miami tackle for the most part. And if we were looking at the NFL lineman grades, they would have him number 1 as well too. Again, they even have Proctor and Fano flipped just based on a grading standpoint. I know Proctor does have a lot of upside. That is for sure. He's definitely a very, very talented lineman. Might be the most talented in the class. But, I mean, like we said, both Miami's lines this year were very, very dominant. I mean, Indiana's offensive line, and because of, again, the stories of the team, was the major story of college football to some degree. I mean, not the offensive line, obviously the school, but the offensive line being like a major part of that, a major sub-part of that story. But, again, Miami's offensive line was very, very similar in doing their thing. Their run game was impressive for helping them make their title run and for helping them get close to winning that national championship as well, too. And they have him rated, again, as the number 1 prospect here overall from the offensive line class. 3-year starter as a team captain. Dense build with broad frame, outstanding lean muscle mass. Whoa, well-balanced, delivering pop on contact, generates torque from the hips. See, I know we wrote that down when we watched, but we just like to make sure that, other people see it as well. Unlocks hips, digs in with steps in door jam bull rush. The door jam bull rush, chat. Hey, yo, hands up. Hands are patient during smooth, measured pass slides. Latches in and runs the pass rush around the pocket. Has anchor for vertical sets and range to hit diagonal step. Oh, here we go. What are they discrediting for? Average range, getting angles and landmarks in outside zone. Too much leaning and not enough bending as the drive blocker, chat. Sometimes these guys are just saying things. Hey, yo, too much leaning and not enough bending. I mean, average range, getting to angles and landmarks is kind of interesting. I guess I didn't even realize, spots in the, what are landmarks? Hey, yo. I guess just, checkpoints for the play, this defender here, but still, I guess, if he is maybe a step behind getting some of the angles, that is something that, I wasn't going to say Penei Sewell, but it definitely did cross our mind. You see the equal measurables there. Obviously, Sewell did have to get kicked over to right tackle, but he's been arguably the best right tackle in the league. So if you went back to the draft with the knowledge you'd be taking him at right tackle, he still might be the number 1 offensive lineman in that class, especially as well too. But what do we got here? Spin counters are a mounting concern in pass pro. Lack of length limits rush redirection when beaten. Could struggle staying connected to stacked moves. So yeah, if he does maybe have, again, like that sort of has to go to right tackle vibe to his game, that doesn't necessarily have to be a bad thing. Obviously, you're getting a great offensive lineman. We always go back to Quentin Nelson. Nobody valued Quentin Nelson the year in that draft because they were like, well, nobody would take a guard this highly in the draft. And the Colts like, we will. We'll do. And, he's been the best Colt this decade. It is what it is. He's going to get his jersey in the rafters. It's our fault we haven't built the team around Quentin Nelson. But it doesn't matter. You need good offensive linemen regardless of where they're at. The left tackle is a good starting point, a good standard. You got to have one as well. We get it. But you do just need good offensive linemen in the building at some point to ultimately have good pass protection, good, AO, good protection in any sense. And, again, the Bengals sitting at number 10 are obviously going to be eyeing, you'd assume one of these offensive linemen if they want to keep Burrow protected. I mean, the Browns have had a great offensive line here over the last couple of years. They've had great offensive line players over the last couple of years. They've had some of those guys fading in and out. But, for them to continue to protect Shador would seem like the easy thing. I mean, just because they are, that they would need a little bit more spice as a franchise. Maybe taking Sonny Styles for them actually would be a fun move because, again, he could complement Garrett on defense in a different way and is just like more of a like a ticket sales type of guy, I guess, if that's the best way to say it. I mean, if you're Tennessee at 4, I get the obviously, if Bailey's there, or like we're saying, if Bailey's there and Bain is there, the want to take a defensive end is definitely something that is, very realistic. But why not just go for the offensive line in general as well, too? They have invested there over the last couple of years. And, speaking of drafting good offensive linemen, that was the argument for them taking Skoronski in the top 10 when they did. And, AO, shout out. Obviously, PFF loves his game. Number 5 at guard there. Latham, they took Latham at 7th. And, he's obviously continued to be a productive tackle. So if you got him and then at least him and Latham, you would at least probably get an upgrade over Moore from your left tackle spot. Who do they have at center right now? Trey Hill. So maybe they would need to continue to upgrade the interior. Grant Dellinger as the other safety or other guard as well too. Maybe gives them some good starting minutes. So they could have, the foundation of a good playing offensive line if these other guys take a step forward. They are also like a sneaky receiver team as well too. Could they? I mean, you wouldn't take Carnell Tate at 4, but if you could trade back, would the Saints trade up for somebody? I don't know, but if you were somehow to swing that and get a receiver, that could be kind of fun. I know, like Lemon and Tyson are moving up draft boards here. I guess I don't know where they have the USC corner. KC Concepcion is here they go. They have him to the Colts. Not the Colts. Womp womp. They have him to the Jets at 16. That's right. Sauce Gardner to the Colts. Not Max Crosby. Sauce Gardner. Not Mekhi Lemon. Sauce Gardner. Shout out. Great player. We love to have him. But I almost think Tennessee might be another offensive line team as well. I guess they have Arizona taking the Miami player in discussion, so he wouldn't be on the board at 4. But you could see Miami, or you could see obviously Arizona going in any direction. And because they're so directionless at this point, like if you're Tennessee, you're not just vaguely building an offensive line. You do have Cam Ward, so at least you're thinking, we are investing in a investment that we have made. We took a quarterback number 1. He showed some very progressive, very positive signs in his first year. So there is, a great chance that he is able to continue to produce well as a starter in the league. But, now you're actually directly protecting and directly, like the pieces are directly complementing each other. And a pass rusher, he's going to help Simmons as well too. Pass rush depth is, again, like the foundation of helping these teams win the Super Bowl. Like we just saw with the Seahawks as well too, with their great depth of pass rushers there and their entire defense being stacked. But they also, again, they just drafted well everywhere. So I guess, the secret to winning a Super Bowl is you nail all your draft picks. Hot take. It is what it is. So if the Cardinals can nail their next 17 draft picks, then yes, they'll be in Super Bowl contention. But shout out. So we said for, of course, Miami, Bain, and our guy from the offensive line are going to be major impact guys there in the top 10. I mean, Beck, we do have to, probably value Beck as a late round quarterback, 108. Again, at one point, it's like, is Carson Beck the QB1 in the class? And if you're always going to be viewing him as a prospect through that prism, then, maybe you're not always going to be as fond of the tape that you see. But even looking at his numbers, again, the 108th quarterback in the class, like 3,800 yards, 30 touchdowns, and 12 interceptions. And maybe I am around on the fact that, like, and the class is, I guess I don't want to say better than maybe I thought, but, you know, there are some guys in the class that do have, of course, like, you know, the what if upside compared to, I don't know if Carson Beck does have a safety, but at least, you know, the theoretical that he could be the safer quarterback. I mean, they still have Drew Aller up at like 116. I mean, that's not trying to disrespect, but 8 touchdowns to 3 picks. Hey, yo. But I mean, yeah, in terms of passing production, you know, I guess he was the most productive passer on this list in terms of yards. Mendoza obviously in touchdown to interception ratio, but you see him being and Sawyer Robinson as well too, 31 touchdowns to 12 for Beck's 30 to 12. But Beck with just a few more yards, I guess a few more games. So maybe Robinson more yards per game there as well too, potentially. You know, Taylon Green, of course, a great combine and is definitely a guy that maybe raises up draft boards. You know, Garrett Nussmeier was, again, like a guy that was previously high valued. And maybe you say the system that he was in college, you know, you're going to be obviously better at bringing him along in the NFL and bet on the tools that are there. But, you know, Carson Beck, 6'5", 233. Now we're doing the combine sort of stereotypical things. But, you know, there is like a quarterback stature to him. There is a leadership capabilities that he has showcased there. So, again, I think that at least as a swing on day 2, I do like Carson Beck. Round 3 or later, I like the move. I still would have to judge. I think Taylon Green is another player, and we do have to see where we would value Ty Simpson as well too, because again, we're kind of just going with the fact that he is in that like 28 to, it might be a broad, but like that 28 to 48 range is kind of where maybe he settles, but where he's going to settle probably like 20, maybe like 28 to 38 is probably the proper way to say it. But after that, just assuming that that's where the league goes with Simpson, you know, for us personally, I would say the initial names we would be looking at would probably be Carson Beck and Sawyer Robinson and Taylon Green as well too. So sorry, I guess just not Drew Aller. It is what it is. And you know, I still am, I guess, not as sold on Nussmeier yet at this point. But you know, again, there is a little bit of a proof of concept there with Beck that has to be mentioned. And maybe it's more a veteran team is bringing him in as well too. Like I don't know if Jimmy G is going to be there next year for the Rams, but maybe a team like that, maybe Pittsburgh, if they're like, okay, you know, Rodgers gets hurt and we need a starter to step in right away, you know, I guess behind Mason Rudolph. I don't know. Do you go Carson Beck if you're like Tennessee? Is that like your Kirk Cousins to RG3 move? Hey, yo, we tread lightly. But, you know, that might be a little like lower upside Kirk Cousins. Hey, yo, where it's like, you know, maybe he's not going to win the starting job, but he can at least be a good starter if he's there. But I do think Carson Beck is being a little slept on in this draft as well. Again, I think all these Miami guys are being slept on. I think to some degree the Indiana guys are not being, they are being slept on from the draft. They're not obviously being, you know, they were heavily discussed in terms of being a historic school, a historic team. But Miami was, you know, again, the college football playoff does showcase that sort of raw football talent a little bit more than just, I don't want to say more than a BCS talent, because you don't look back at some of those BCS games and go, oh, well, this team was there's just no way this team wasn't the best team in college football this year. This is absolutely ridiculous. Like, for the most part, it's pretty close. You know, you walk away thinking, yeah, for the most part, the national champion was the national champion. That does seem right. But, you know, again, you see like Ohio State last year where there could have been the politics of a college football playoffs or a BCS get in the way. And, yeah, maybe they could have been the best team in college football, but, you know, you could also, again, walk away from the season and go, yeah, not super bummed, I guess, again, for us Michigan fans, but, you know, not super bummed that they didn't win the title from sort of a historical standpoint. But, again, you get them in a playoff and it's just, may the best man win, then it's like, yeah, you know what, they do kind of have the most just football talent of any school. And obviously, you know, Ryan Day is a great coach as well, too, able to bring all the pieces together. And, you know, shout out to Cristobal from Miami. But Miami this year was just straight up one of the more talented teams. And I think we will see that play out in the draft. I even like the corner that they had there with Scott as well, too. And then there was another name that I was like, oh yeah, I mean, we can continue to. Oh yeah, we didn't even hype up Mesidor as well too. I mean, let's see what they have, who they have Mesidor comp to, just to get a gauge and see what we've got here. Let's actually just filter to the defensive line and see how they have listed here. Yeah, so they do have him list. They've only got one player listed in between them. They do have Bain in a little bit of a different tier at a 6.7 grade, Folk at a 6.45, or Folk at a 6.45, and then Mesidor at a 6.41. Zion Young from Missouri at a 6.4. But, again, you got to definitely credit the production. But 6'3", 259. Again, I guess just the non-athletic Miami tackle or Miami defensive line somehow destroying the entire college football landscape. Jonathan Greenard is the comp. I mean, Jonathan Greenard's a Pro Bowl level pass rusher at his best. Mesidor, an instinctive high-level rusher with a fluid rush style and a deep toolbox. Chat. I mean, what is bad about that? His burst upfield can shrink the corner while punishing oversettling tackles with inside counters. So what are they knocking him for? Lacks desired height and length as an NFL edge. I mean, we don't even have to say it, chat. We don't even have to say it. Does size matter? Speed to power conversion. I guess if we phrase it like that, then maybe yes. But if we say it doesn't matter for a defensive end, probably not. Speed to power conversion is average by league standards. Base narrows through engagement, leading to imbalance. Desire to chase play direction sets him up for counters. Foot injury limit him to 3 games in 2023. Will be a 25-year-old rookie. Okay, that is something to note for sure. But as again, we got to talk about where we're considering them in the draft. So yeah, we're obviously probably not going to take him over Ruben Bain straight up if we had to make the choice, but in the scale of the defensive lineman, I mean, I think would he be our 3rd favorite behind Bailey as well too? I guess we still have to sit down and watch some of the Bailey tape. And I guess Reese, I was thinking about him maybe as a linebacker, or I just wasn't giving credit to the Ohio State guy. It is what it is. So Bain, Reese, Bailey, Mesidor is our ranking maybe, or Bain, Reese, Bailey, Reese. We got to move the Ohio State guy down, but we'll pause. We'll obviously continue to work those out as the ranking goes. But yeah, I would say that if you want to maybe argue Reese's, but I don't know. I just think they're different players. I think Bain is, much more consistent, much more traditional heavy set pass rusher versus, again, Arvell Reese is kind of like a maybe hybrid edge linebacker flying around the field. And, obviously you just say dynamic athlete, like sounds like just straight up a better football player. But, a little bit more hybrid athlete or a little bit more hybrid linebacker pass rusher type of player. And David Bailey, even more like kind of a traditional set edge in some ways. But, I think Bain for that type of skill set would be the number 1 player that we would be looking at in the class that way for right now. But of course, we will be back Tuesday night here on the live stream. Sunday, Tuesday, Friday is the schedule, so you can follow us here on the YouTube. You can send us a message at REMINGTOM on Instagram, or DM us over there if you want to connect with us that way. And if you want to follow the podcast feeds as well too, go ahead and do that. And yeah, you can join us here on the YouTube for the next live stream Tuesday night. Enjoy the next couple of days, and we'll see y'all later. Peace.